Call the meeting to order for the Select Board for December 9th. Joe Mark, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of the minutes for December 25th.
November 25th, Mr. Chairman.
That's what I meant, sorry.
It's all good.
This can be a team sport, but,
It's all good.
let's try this again. I almost said December again. November 25th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So made.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I've got a couple things.
Go ahead, Rob.
Truck ordering timeline discussion. The second sentence, there was a delay in ordering the truck. It wasn't ordered until May 23rd because of the switch from the Freightliner to the Western Star. There should be a period after truck and then it should be capitalized. Police department update. Chief Montello reviewed his report, number of calls, arrests, traffic stops, direct patrols, excuse me, etc. And then I think it should say the turkey trot is scheduled, not turkey trot is scheduled. It doesn't really mean much, but. What was the other one I had? Page 5. Top of the line, Arcum stated there continues to be an issue with Crystal Haven Common area, comma, a 2 parcel of land. I think that's supposed to say a 2 acre parcel of land north of Crystal Beach.
And also, I was gonna state this, I'm pretty sure Mike Jones made that statement, not me. Do you agree with that, Mike? To lead into that discussion?
Yes.
So change your name to M. Jones?
Correct.
Okay.
And then under manager's report, second paragraph, 1, 2, third line down, there's a sentence that start with a sewer pipes were televised. I think it should say the sewer pipes were televised.
Change A to the? Is
Yeah.
that- Okay.
And then in the brief recap and items for follow-up, 1, 2, 3, third line down, it said our steel can be reached if there are questions about the dock spacing issue. I believe under that, it was gonna be that I was gonna get in touch with, I think, somebody from those 3 people, that Rick and them, to discuss what their options were. I don't believe it was just a general statement that if there's any questions with dock
Yeah, that
spaces,
was
they
an
can
action-
reach
those-
me.
This actually was action items, and
Yeah.
yes, you're correct.
That's all I got.
Mark, anything?
I'm good.
Rob?
I'm good.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Citizens' comments, items not on the agenda. You, sir, you go first. I need your name for the record and where you live. Fair enough.
My name is David Richards, 158 Crystal Heights. I don't live here. I'm not a resident. The last board meeting, there was some comments about the dock space. Whenever I read the dock space, I get nervous. All right? I've had a house up there for a long, long time, and the dock space issue comes up once in a while. And so I sent an email to Mr. Steele.
Yep.
And he said, could you come up or attend? You know, so I came up from Jersey today. So what I did, I put a little packet together to educate you guys because some of you guys don't know what's going on, I mean, the history of the dock space, so may I approach?
Certainly.
So, I'm gonna do ones for all you guys. And the other thing I didn't know, that M. Jones was the town manager, didn't know that.
I think I've talked to you on the phone before, you've called me before.
I called you at the sewer, I can't talk about the sewer.
Okay, okay.
I said no, God, I don't want the sewer. I'm pretty good with that. I don't have, I might have to share it. So the first thing is a copy of a paper saying that the town is getting the squatters out in 2005. In July, it came out, the town says, and what happened is, the way it's worded is this common area, and people think that means anybody can go down there. Right? That's part of the problem. And people are building docks down there, and it isn't on their deed. You know, I'm paying $30,000 assessment now, because my practice, I have lake access. I don't have a dock rights, but I have lake access. So, the next page is, in '07, the town decided, because in, the way it was written up, everybody got a little piece of paper saying this is where your dock space is. It was very vague. So in '07, the town hired a surveyor. He surveyed the whole thing, put stakes in there and markers, and they were numbered. So my number was 37. So I received a letter from the town saying that's your spot, 37. So I went down there and marked it. I put a post there with my name, 37, this is my spot. And that was it. The problem is that, and it's still going on today, that I have a very good spot. I'm a southern exposure. I get no weeds, no nothing. Back in the 70s and early 80s, all the spots were good. But then the weeds started coming in, the lily pads, and there's a marsh. I mean, you can't put a boat in certain areas there. And they're paying an assessment, $30,000 or more. You know, that you can't put a boat in because it's all full of marsh. So, you can see, I put the picture of the new map and the old map. The original map that was issued to us back in the early 80s. I think it's in there. So, my concern is, it's still going on to this day, is having 12 feet wide and a 4-foot dock, is fine back then, but now all these pontoon boats, they're averaging 8 to 10 feet width. And the guy next to me encroached on my side. I didn't make a big deal about it. I have pictures there that shows what I did. And first the guy put chairs there on my spot. I don't care. I just want to get my dock in. But his boat was too close. I couldn't have put my dock where it's supposed to go because this pontoon boat was on my property. Well, luckily, Mr. Burke, who doesn't have a boat, it was not a big deal. But I did tell him, he said, the deed's the deed, it says 4 feet, 12 feet. So if you got a 30-foot boat wide, I mean, it doesn't mean you can put it there, you know? You gotta maintain what the rules say. If everybody followed the rules, we won't have any problems, right? It's a very simple thing. But what's happening is, people are, the ones that don't have good spots will approach the town. You know, since we don't have a good spot and we live here, there's people here that they have good spots but don't use it, so why can't we swap? That comes up once in a while. So I just want to make sure, that's why I'm here. I have a great spot, I got pictures there, it's a great spot. Don't touch it, don't do anything with it. But there is a problem that, I talked to Mr. Jones today, that he found out that some people get the right to dredge. The state's giving them to dredge, which is, I think the public should know that, because that's a big deal. They can get all those weeds out of there. Oh, not the weeds, the lily pads. I got a picture in the back there, it's from Google Maps, and you can see that it's, and doing that, a lot of it's just plain green. You can't do anything with it. It's the last picture. And it just shows, right, that's right there, it's just, I think it's the last picture. Yeah, no, keep on going. Right there. You can't put a dock there. It's all green. It's all lily pads. Well, back in the 70s and 80s, it was perfect. It wasn't a problem. So the town had, what I think is two issues. You got squatters still, that just do whatever they want. They put a dock, it's empty, I put a dock there. And there's no way to manage it. What I have ideas is that the town should contact everybody who has a deeded spot. Question, do you have a boat or no? Do you have a dock? Yes or no? If you have a boat and a dock, what's the registration? And just match them up. The name should match, or a family member. Because a lot of them are renting them out, and the other ones, they don't own the property. Right? It's not under deed. So, and it becomes a problem. If people say, so I'll give you an example. This summer, I was putting my dock in the water. This guy came over, is this your spot? I'm like, yeah, it's my spot. Prove it to me. Oh, yeah. I said, well, I can prove it to you. It's on my phone. It's my name right here, 37. Well, what's your stakes? One's there, one's there. Oh, you're good. Oh, you the cops? He was just a guy that just bought property, and he was trying to put his stock in. That's all I'm trying to tell you. Whenever I read something about the docks, I get concerned because one year, one of the selectmen thought that since it's a privilege, not a right, we can take it away from you. Then I came in and said, well, then why am I paying at the time $20,000 assessment? I want my money back.
Well, I think, I hear everything you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, and we still want to we don't want to break it, or we don't want to make it go away. That's not our plan. I said that was one of the three options we have as a board, is to do that. And I also said that was not really a good idea.
Well, about 4 years ago, some man, he's a resident of Florida, he's got a place here, he was organizing something.
Joe Smith.
Yes. Yeah. I went to his house.
I remember
I said
that.
to him, so what's going on? What? Well, when somebody does this, they gotta have an agenda. So I asked him, what's your agenda? What do you mean? Why are you doing this? Why are you working up everybody? What's your agenda? Fill up my property. And you're not allowed in my meeting. Okay? So, that didn't sit well with me. And it was all about switching spots. The people that don't use it, they shouldn't have, they should get a spot that nobody can use. They wanted to switch spots. And that's what I'm always afraid of, because 1 year I don't put my dock in, oh, it's not being used, I'm gonna take that spot. Because I don't live here, so that's about it. And you guys, you go by Robert rules, right? Robert, you should have a copy that's about this thick paperback.
I have one at home.
Yeah. I was president of the school board,
Ah,
so.
Well, thank you for coming in. We are nowhere near done with this. Rob's
No, you never,
been
you
working
never
on
gonna
it.
be done with it, actually.
And,
One day you should change the name, it says not common, get rid of that name. People see that, oh, it's common ground. It's not common, it's deeded,
I did a bunch of reading today, and the way that it's worded is you guys have deeded access rights. It is common ground area. You don't. I don't have it in front of me today. It was in the file. You have deeded access for swimming, boating, and recreation there.
Right, I know what it says, but we're paying right now $30,000 assessment.
Yeah.
To have that right, so the first thing's taken it away, you can't do that. Now you're gonna lose all that tax revenue, because now you can't charge us an assessment. That's a lot of money. But half those spots aren't usable right now unless it gets stretched. That's all I'm saying. So, thanks for your service.
thank you for coming in. We're gonna wrestle with this. It's gonna be a while before it gets resolved.
got hands in the back there.
Yeah, I
Like to hear
know.
what Tom has to say.
just in terms of what common space, whatever you want to call it, it was set aside for the exclusive use, and that's the exact language in thing, for those that have deeded in the three three developments. The town took down one of the gates. There used to be two gates on the two entrances that said that for the exclusive use of commission members. One of the gates disappeared, and then everyone started to use it, I guess it's on the north side. Started just entering that. So that's where you have people that
It's just
are
a change.
not even residents, or they could be Castleton residents, but they're not commission residents. So the town needs to explain that property on both sides of the canal is for the exclusive use of commission members.
Well, the commission disbanded,
Right. But
and it was left to the town.
sold properties. And in the deeds to those properties, and I have all the minutes for these meetings and all the maps and everything, so. It doesn't, it didn't, the dock spaces came along later, and then the town said, we're gonna have dock licenses. But the deed says it's for the exclusive use of commission members for, and the list those accesses, it's swimming, boating, and I think it says all recreational uses. And that's why the strip people wanted to put boats on where there used to be a nice beach, it's just kind of been, nature happens, right? So that's why the canal was all silted in and everything else. But that's why there's no docks along the main part of the lake there, because that was the swimming area, the common areas. And years ago, people had more things. We used to have volleyball nets and all kinds of things like that. And some of the families that live on East Crystal Haven still use it. It's a big family reunion area and stuff like that. So the town should, and I don't know, it's a nightmare now. So, good luck. But there should be a sign that says for the exclusive use of commission, just to begin with. And then at least you have a leg to stand on, than if someone's in there not. But now you do. And then the other problem that the town did was, when he did the 3 different projects, everyone kept adding on to it. So there was enough dock spaces for the original Crystal Haven development. And then when the Heights got developed and then people divided properties which weren't supposed to be divided.
That's a lot of dock spaces.
And a lot of, places that were bigger lots that were never supposed to be divided were subdivided, so then it becomes 1 dock space becomes 5 dock spaces because the property was divided. So those multiplied way beyond what there's room for. Nature has made it even smaller what there's room for, so it's a problem.
But the commission disbanded.
Correct. The commission disbanded and left that 2-acre property to the town of Castleton.
Do you know when that occurred, Rob?
No.
That's what I read today in a deed.
But it was, the commission disbanded and the select board of the town got control to.
I'd have to go back and look through and read it, Tom, because it was early. It was earlier today, but my understanding was when, I think it was 1979 or something like that, that the commission disbanded or fell apart or whatever, and they left it to the town of Castleton.
Right. But the property, that's for you to manage, not for you to change the use of.
I'd have to read the whole thing
Well,
over.
I think right now, Tom,
We're working on it.
we're not going to resolve that now, so let's move on.
Anyway, I have 2 questions.
Great.
I was inquiring about where the town was in the replacement of the drainage pipe. For 12 years or more, the town has known that pipe's been complicated, and we're still going on. At the moment, it's just at the end of the summer, it dropped again. So where it comes out, where the pipe runs into the back of my head wall, is 4 inches lower, the pipe is 4 inches lower than the aperture in the head wall. This is causing major problems for the head wall. When we started this process, the town's intention was there was no easement, so they weren't responsible.
Wait a minute, time out, Tom. That was your contention, there was no
That
easement.
came from the town. I came to the town and said, and Paul Hagan was the highway commissioner, I went directly to him, I said, Paul, we always contended there was an easement, and then the town denied there was an easement. I couldn't prove there was an easement. My lawyer said, well, for you it's better if there is no easement, because then I can do whatever I want with the pipe. So then the town now says they have an easement, and they produce a paper that has an easement, but it's not where it was supposed to be. So that's a whole different issue. But anyway, the town now, and I'll stipulate for now, the town has an easement for that drainage pipe, correct?
We agree on that.
That's really, I'm not saying I totally agree with that. I think it's squirrely, but anyway, I'll stipulate that for now. So that's the town's understanding is you have an easement, right?
Yes.
So if you have an easement for it, what is your responsibility?
Well, as you know, we've entered into an agreement with an engineering firm, and we're getting that
I
whole
don't know,
thing.
because I haven't been kept informed. You asked the town manager to keep me informed of what was going on. That's never happened. You held a select board meeting at my house and didn't even give us the courtesy of telling us that was gonna happen.
That was a publicly warned meeting, Tom.
I know, but you put my home on your agenda. You don't think, and you asked Mike, Jim Lamy asked Mike, to please keep Tom informed on what's going on. So as a simple courtesy, you should have gave me warning that you were gonna have a meeting at my home, right? Isn't that a simple courtesy?
I honestly don't know for sure off the top of my head what was emailed to you and what wasn't,
Well,
and
nothing
when that
was emailed to me
happened.
about that. I saw it was on warrant, I look at the meeting things, so I did find out it was happening. But it could have been our family reunion that weekend. And then what? You could have come there, and my sister was there, and her dog bit you, because you came onto her property, and she doesn't know you, and then what? So just as a, so you should, if you want me, so I, like you said.
Tom, we didn't go onto your property.
What's that?
We didn't go onto your property.
You did. We all went onto the dock.
I don't
I
believe
did
that's
by
the
your
case.
invitation,
No,
not,
no, no, with the day we had the meeting, all of us walked through the property and onto my dock.
When you were with us.
Agreed.
Okay, there was never a time that we were there without you, that we went onto your
That's only
property.
because I happened to be there. You put, the meeting, the agenda item says that the select board is meeting at 193 Crystal Haven.
To look at the drainage problem.
The drain, you can't look at it
No,
unless you want
not
to-
at your property,
Listen,
at the water that comes down and runs through that culvert. We had no intention of going on your property.
I haven't been kept abreast, so I don't know
Tom,
what's
I don't
going on. So
interrupt
that's
you,
my
and I would
first- so
appreciate the same courtesy in
I'm
response.
supposed to talk to the chairman. That's the way it is.
I'm deferring to Mr. Brown right now, so
But
you,
I'm all done talking with him.
oh my, you can go sit down now. We're not getting anywhere.
I have a second question. What is your responsibility? That's all, it's a simple question. What do you see as your responsibility towards that?
Fix it permanently and properly. We have entered into an agreement with an engineering firm. They're in the process of designing a new system right now, which will include updating and repairing that culvert.
Where
Anything to
is-
add, Mike?
What's that?
Anything to add, Mike?
Yeah, I kind of have to defend myself on this one because I can go back and look at the emails. When Tom's asked me for something, I didn't jump and get the next day, but he's got the stuff that he asked for. I didn't respond to him if I had nothing to respond by. So I can go back and look at emails, so I refute what he says, I take offense to it, so I'm done talking to Tom about this at this point.
I just answered your question, Tom. Do you have another question?
So what is the status of the bigger drainage thing, the Meadoway thing? What is the exact status of that? And what kind of timeline?
We've hired an engineer to design that system, and they're currently working on
Through
it.
the grant from Meadoway.
Correct.
Hypothetical, we have a pipe that runs into the back of my head wall. the pipe has dropped out. That's not, that's happening. If there's further damage to the seawall, who's responsible for that?
That's something we'll have to figure out with the engineers. And I'm not gonna answer, I'm not prepared to answer that question right now.
It's a question of law. If you have an easement, if you have a piece of infrastructure, your job as a town board is to make sure that piece of infrastructure functions correctly. That's the sewer thing, the fire, all these things that the town builds. Your job is to raise the money and to keep those functioning properly. Right?
I'm not arguing that.
Right, okay, so we all
I'm
agree.
also not an attorney, and you, nor are you, so I think that right
We all
now,
agree that that's the basic principle of town government, right?
so what's your point?
My point is that if that's the basic government, and then the town, through neglect or whatever, fails to keep that thing working in whatever it is, in a working order, if there's damage to someone's personal property, the town's also responsible for that.
That'll have to be determined. I am not going to say yes or no right now because because
That's
I'm not
fine.
prepared to make that
I
commitment.
am not willing to let the seawall fall into the water. So I'm gonna go continue on until I have.
Okay, Tom, we're done talking about this tonight.
I'm not done.
I am. You can go sit down and we'll see you in court.
I'm not done. Until I'm satisfied that the town is gonna properly deal with this structure, because this has gone 12 years. The big stormwater thing, that's a whole separate issue. You have a specific duty to keep that pipe in functioning order, and it's not. You were told it wasn't. You were told numerous times it's not functioning properly, and we're still going on.
And I'm telling you that I'm done talking about it tonight, so you can go sit down. Thank you. Mr. Mark?
Joe Mark, 897 Main Street. Just want to thank whoever managed to get good lighting on the sign of the healthcare center. It made it much easier to make the turn into here tonight.
It took a while to get the thing angled right, Joe. Anything more on citizens' comments? Anybody on Zoom?
Anybody on Zoom want to address the select board? Items not on the agenda. No hands, no comments.
Okay. Rec. You're up, John.
Good evening. So, I just need to confirm that you folks got my letter. There was some delay. I thought I had sent it properly Thursday, but apparently I had not, so we got it out. Suffice to say, November, you know, that is a transition month between soccer and basketball. We're gearing up for basketball now. We have two third and fourth grade teams, girls and boys. Approximately 12 games scheduled right now for both. And then we have our K through 2 program, and that has, I think I got our 14th registered this morning, and they meet on Saturday mornings. Beyond that, we've also entered into an agreement with Fairhaven Rec to rent them some practice time in the gymnasium Wednesday and Thursdays prior to pickleball and cornhole. So, you know, that's something that we're going to continue to explore, that partnership with Fairhaven as space and time allows. As activities increase in the gym, I anticipate that, you know, it will become something that is hit or miss, really, frankly, from one season to the next. But it is something that I'd like to explore going forward, you know, in terms of the classrooms and whatnot for cost sharing. Along the lines of cost sharing and we're still working out some of the costs associated with it. In the return to the heating season, there are some issues with a lot of the heating units in individual classrooms and in the hallway, where the motors have frozen up, and in consultation with McClure Construction, I'm learning that it's near impossible to find parts for these units. So what we're gonna be looking at is pulling them out and having the motors, either rebuilt, rewound, and the units refurbished, or trying to find the individual match up the electrical motors. So it's gonna be labor intensive though, and I think there's 5 units total. Some of them are 2 motor units, some of them are individual motor units, which will be a little bit cheaper, but as far as I can tell from the notes in the boiler room, they haven't really been maintained or any sort of service since 2019. These units have been in service for a long time, and they're fairly reliable. And I think that if, once we get a good cost estimate on what each individual unit's gonna cost, I'll be able to get those figures to you. I think that you could reliably say we'll get with annual maintenance on them, 10, 15 years of use out of it. Generally, that's what you'd see out of the high school with regular maintenance on them. So it's not that they're bad units, there's very little, real maintenance to them, but it just has been some time since the majority of them have been maintained. When I went to change out the filters in them, there was years of cake dust and dirt inside them, so it's been a long time. So I'll get you those numbers, and we're also having some issue with the thermostats. Again, this is an older 70s and 80s technology where they're pneumatic thermostats. They're hard to come by. I did purchase one on eBay and paid for it myself, and I still haven't been able to get that one installed. We're working on it with McClure's. Should have it within the next week, and provided that it's fully functional, we'll get reimbursed for it, and we're gonna enter into a contract to have, we take one out, we send it in, we have it refurbished, the individual thermostat. It's about $80, $80 to $90 to have one thermostat refurbished. A new one can cost anywhere, if you can find them, between, the one I paid for was $170, but they can be $350 to $500. So they're expensive units. And, this is the same struggle a lot of the buildings in the district are going through in terms of the replacement of them is pretty pricey, where they do an internet-based thermostat system downloadable to a computer, and then you can control it from one central location, but that's a long ways away from where we're at. So just trying to get through, to have reliable heat thermostats that control the heat properly, therefore saving us fuel. So, and it kind of points towards that, just the overall maintenance of the building, trying to work that in with the normal duties of the recreation director right now. Obviously, if we get this particular issue licked, it shouldn't be such a big issue next year for the heating season. Just turn it on and it works. So, as folks have probably heard, the Friends of Rec and the Turkey Trot was a big success despite the weather. 103 folks registered. I think the numbers were right around, I think, $1,900 of revenue generated from that. So it was a great first effort at Turkey Trot, hopefully something that we can do annually. We had a lot of good cooperation from volunteers and Friends of Rec and police department, fire department, first response. So we're looking forward to building on that.
Well, that was the first annual, right, John?
First annual, that's right. So, and we are gonna do the price increase for pickleball. We've been talking about that for several months now, and it's gonna be $15 for residents and $18 for non-residents. So, and we have pretty good regular attendance at pickleball right now. We are talking about, we did a instructional Saturday, a couple instructional Saturdays, and they were well attended, so there's even more people coming out looking to play pickleball, so. Anybody got any questions?
I have a question. You said you're sponsoring some travel teams?
Yes.
Um,
Sponsoring is kind of a strong word, but that's the best word I could come up with, yeah.
So my concern is that those travel teams, unless I misunderstand them, those are tryouts.
Mhm.
So the top athletes compete in that. And
Typically.
how many of those kids are from Castleton and how many come from other communities?
I have to. look at
Roughly.
I'd say
50 kids from Castleton?
50?
Two, just rough
Oh,
numbers.
okay, all right, so there's.
I don't want you to
On
overthink
this
it.
one particular team, the boys' team has 11. 13 kids signed up, 2 of them dropped out, and they took all 11. So there
11
wasn't-
from Castleton.
Oh, probably 7 or 8 from Castleton, some from Fairhaven, couple from, one, I think, from Orwell. So they're from the region.
My concern is that we have teams that, you know, and my vision of community rec might be a little different than yours, but in community teams, typically everybody gets to participate. And I have concerns about travel teams that I've always thought of as private teams. And they can do whatever they want. There's tryouts. Only the best athletes get to go.
Right.
They tend to travel a lot. So only families that are fairly affluent can participate because they have to get hotel rooms and meals, and and then they're going to use the gym for practice time.
Right,
And I struggle with the exclusivity of it.
right,
That this is eliminating kids of average physical ability, and it's eliminating kids of average financial ability.
right.
And it's using a lot of time, or could potentially, because I'm not sure what the schedule is, could use a lot of time in the facility. I know there's been some open gyms, and there's like 25 kids that show up
Yep.
from Castleton. And if you have, that time is eliminated for a travel team,
Right.
you're gonna have 3 or 4 kids from Castleton at the exclusion of those 25. And they're gonna be 3 or 4 kids that have privilege, that come from families that can afford to go to Albany to play games and get a motel and spend the weekend, and kids that are better athletes, and that's my struggle with that. It does not meet what I see as community recreation.
Right. Well,
I'm not saying there shouldn't be travel teams, I just don't think that they should be supported by Castleton taxpayers.
Well, I definitely see those arguments, and there's, you know, I think that in the big picture, this is the same group that played together for fall soccer, and if it were to come to the case where it was, as you described, where it was, you know, exclusive money-wise, because the registration for both tournaments was $80, so $45 a tournament. And, you know, these kids are definitely not any different than the kids that played you know, in the fall league. They just are kids in teams that want to continue to play through the winter. And I'm familiar with travel teams, and the amount of money that we're talking about, traveling all over New England and the entire country. And these are day trips down to Albany, so a lot of those concerns were discussed with Coach Mason, who is the coach for the boys team, and now we have a girls team that is struggling to make, you know, enough kids to be able to try to do this. And when we're talking about sponsoring, there's really, the parents pay for the registration fee, and they're paying about $5.50 extra per player to be able to offset the extra time. It'd be, for the boys team, it was two practices in the gym for an hour. So, and the girls team, they are taking a practice from Fairhaven Rec because they were canceled. So there's no real realized expenditure right now, but I can see where, you know.
Well, I'm just talking about the use of the building, and
That's
if,
what I'm saying, is that.
and
there's
if
no
you're doing the
real-
registration, and then you have to submit the money for the tournaments, it's taking up some of your time.
It is.
And I just don't want to see that used disproportionately for kids of privilege.
Right.
I think that, you know, this needs to be accessible. The rec programs need to be accessible to, and not just kids, because we're rethinking community rec. The
Right.
building needs to be accessible to every person that lives in the town of Castleton, regardless of age. That, you know, we want to see that rec expand to all age groups. And it doesn't, we've always thought of rec as Little League and basketball, and it also needs to include whatever else it would, maybe book club or walking club or, you know, cooking classes, or to make sure that we include everybody regardless of their economic ability.
Right.
So I don't mean to get in a big conversation about it. I'm speaking for myself, not the board, but I find that a big concern.
Okay.
Anything else?
I have a concern that we have, well, let's say half a dozen kids from Castleton and 4 kids from another town. Are we getting anything from the other towns to help support that for your time and whatnot? Is there anything coming? Say you had 4 kids from Orwell. Is Orwell giving the town of Castleton any money to cover your expenses for what you're doing for that team?
Not specifically from Orwell, no. It would come from the parents and the registration, extra money on top of the registration.
So there,
$5.50 per tournament.
and that's,
Per register.
there's enough that covers all your cost and your time that we're paying?
I haven't sat down and specifically broke it down.
Because I think the taxpayers are probably gonna have an issue paying for time allotted for other towns' participants, that's all.
Right. Well, I can break it down and make sure we are covering that. I mean, that was part of the discussion in regards to the registration fee. Said that we needed to have a small amount for recreation to be able to cover those expenses.
Yeah, I mean, all these other, this should all be, like I saw on the budget, self-sustaining, you know, this shouldn't cost the taxpayers, the town, anything. Whether that's your time doing all this, or, you know, loss of use of the building or anything, so,
Right.
that's all I have.
We can break it down. I mean, if it's something that was continuous, this is, as I said in the letter and have explained, is that this is the first run of this travel team. There was people that raised concerns in the Recreation Commission meeting about it, so, you know, I'm not totally sold on it myself, but it was something that, you know, Kyle donates his time as a coach and as a parent. He's also coaching basketball. These are the same kids on the basketball team. So he wanted to go down. He wanted to know if we wanted to give some extra advertising for Castleton Recreation. So that's basically what it boils down to. So.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Let's talk about the, possibly renovating the animal control ordinance. specifically the citizens' request for a leash law in Crystal Heights.
So, I'll go first if nobody's got anything. So, under Article 4, for violations, I guess we don't have pages on this, but, 4.2, the domestic pet, except domestic cat, domestic animal, or wolf hybrid is at large. If somebody's animal is running into somebody else's yard, I would say that falls under that category, that they're at large.
I agree with that.
So they would already be in violation, so the animal control officer could do something about that. And 4.7, the domestic pet, excluding cats, domestic animal, or wolf hybrid, is within an animal control area and not under control and on a leash, or outside an animal control area and not under control. So if your dog is, which the animal control areas are weird around town, the way that it's worded, they got separate zones. But either way, if it's outside an animal control area, which would be those dogs up, or whatever animal happens to be up on Crystal Heights, they would be outside the animal control area, and if it's running away towards somebody that doesn't want the dog to come jump on it, and that person isn't in the private property of that other person, then it's clearly not under control.
I would agree with that.
So, without a leash law, those would be in violation anyway. And I believe, since I've been on the board, that's the first complaint we've had about a leash law. So, without redoing this whole ordinance, it's possible we could just send the animal control officer to talk to the person that has the dog running free up there, and, follow through with the violation if it continues to happen.
Yeah, I agree with that, Rob. I think it's a reasonable expectation to be able to walk down a street or a road in Castleton and not be harassed by a dog. I think that's reasonable.
And I think the ordinance outlines that pretty clear. There's not necessarily a leash law, but there's a law saying your dog needs to be under control. So that's where I stand on that.
I agree with
It needs to be under control and not at large. So, at large would be anywhere other than its designated area on your property.
That's correct.
I will talk to the police chief and the animal control officer about this.
You'll give him the lady's name that was in here and seeing if the last
Yes.
I mean, if we had 100 people in here complaining about a leash law, then I think it would be something different to take into advisory, but I haven't seen it as being a huge issue around town right now, so I think it can be handled on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, but I do a lot of walking on various streets, both in this town and in Fairhaven, and I have yet to incur a problem, but I have not walked up Crystal Heights.
Yeah.
And I've been meaning to do that, I just haven't taken the time to get over there and walk up that road and back down. The hill climb would probably do me some good. Anything else on this? Then we're gonna move on to adopting the inclusion statement. And Mr. Brown, you wanna run with this one?
Sure. So I sent everybody on the select board a link to the website of the Vermont Declaration of Inclusion. Hopefully you had a chance to look at it. They describe themselves as Vermont's Declaration of Inclusion is a grassroots effort working with community leaders to reinforce the message that Vermont is a safe and welcoming place for all. This isn't DEI, it's not quotas. I don't think it's anything new, really. I think, I see it as kind of a reinforcement of the document that makes us Americans, the Declaration of Independence, and its seminal statement that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal. So if we adopt this, it would read, Declaration of Inclusion, Town of Castleton. The Town of Castleton condemns racism and welcomes all persons, regardless of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, age, disability, or socioeconomic status, and wants everyone to feel safe and welcome in our community. As a town, we formally condemn all discrimination in all of its forms, commit to fair and equal treatment of everyone in our community, and will strive to ensure all of our actions, policies, and operating procedures reflect this commitment. The town of Castleton has and will continue to be a place where individuals can live freely and express their opinions. So Joe, Mark, and I were having a conversation. He asked me to bring this before the board, and I felt really comfortable doing that because I think that these ideals and beliefs are embraced by this board, by the town manager, and in fact, everybody that I know in Castleton, I believe. But sometimes it's not enough to believe something, you have to declare it because you want people to know. And I think that we want people to know, we want everybody that lives in Castleton, people that work in Castleton, go to school in Castleton, visit Castleton. I think we want the whole world to know that we welcome all honest people that want to be a positive influence with open arms in this town. And that we will judge people by the content of their character, but not by the color of their skin, their nation of origin, or who they love. So that being said, I would make a motion that the town formally adopts the Declaration of Inclusion and utilizes that where possible.
I'll second that for you, Mark.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I just want to add that this is also, I'm not opposed to this. I certainly have tried to live by these principles anyways, but I want to say that it's also the law. We're legally required to do this. And so this is somewhat redundant, but once again, I'm not opposed to it. But
Well,
I
I
wanted
think
to
that-
state that we, as a town, are already legally required to do this, and we do comply with the law.
Again, this goes back to the origins of our country, and almost as often as not, we have failed to live up to these ideals. But we know they're important, and I think to reinstate them and to make sure that, we have a lot of international students here. Vermont is still a very, very straight white state, but that's changing, and we want people to feel welcome here.
I think that this is something that we've already, well, at least, most of us already have done anyway, just in our daily lives. And I feel that the town's done that. There may have been other towns that have had issues over the years, and this may be where that, came into consideration. But, I'm pretty proud that Castleton, I don't feel that we've had any issues with that in the past. I think that we've always kind of followed by this and by the law and not had any, any issues like maybe some other towns had. So I want to make sure that we don't see this as people thinking that Castleton prior to this, felt differently.
Yeah, I don't think that would happen. Again, this grassroots effort goes back quite a few years at this point. Al Wakefield is one of the originators of it. I don't know if you know him. He's a man of African-American descent that lives in Mendon, has been around Rutland for a while. And I think that he has felt discrimination in the time that he has lived in Vermont. He certainly is an extreme minority. We have very, very few people of different ethnicity than us white guys. And, I'm 66 years old, and I can tell you I'm really embarrassed at some of the viewpoints that I had in my earlier years. When I was in high school, we didn't like gay people. We didn't even think we knew any. And of course we did, because 10% of the population is gay. We just made them feel so uncomfortable they couldn't express who they were. I went to high school with one black student. In our high school yearbook, this made it through and was published in Poultney in 1976, that one person for their class saying was a good, and he used a slang term for a person of African-American descent, is a dead. It was published in my high school yearbook. It's just hard to believe that in my lifetime, we lived with these discriminations. And we were ignorant because we weren't exposed to other people. and now we're exposed to other people more. We were then, and we made them feel uncomfortable, you know, and I feel horrible about, I know that I have done that in my life, you know, but we know better now, and, yeah, for us, you know, we all hold these beliefs, and we think we're living that way, but I think it's important that we declare it to other people. And the goal of the Declaration of Inclusion of this grassroots effort is to have every town in Vermont sign this and utilize it in their public spaces so people feel comfortable.
Anything to add, Bob?
I agree with that 100%.
Then I'm gonna call the question. It's been moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So let's talk about a tree at 455 Main Street. Mike, you said you had a second bid come in?
We did, from Black Bear for $5,500 to remove the tree but not remove the stump.
No,
Okay.
you did good.
The tree weren't here? There it is, okay. So, we know the history on it. There's a message from Rich Clark, says, "Thank you, Mark Brown, and all the board members." Must have been for the inclusion thing. So, now that this has kind of come to light with this deed that talks about the town green area, so that is town property. It's not an easement or a right-of-way. It's town property. And so, I guess maybe I digress, I'm sorry, I digressed on that one. I think that's not, has nothing to do with the tree bid, has to do with the statement of that if we take this down, then anything else on town property, we should be able to, if it's dead or dying or a threat to public safety, that we can take it down even at the chagrins or the, if somebody doesn't like it.
If it's on town property?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do
Because
that.
all those lawns are town property.
Yeah, so we can do whatever we want there, right? We can take trees down if we want, that's our business, it's
Yeah,
our property.
I think there's, we wouldn't just arbitrarily start
Oh, yeah, just
sawing
cut,
things
yeah,
down.
we need
'cause
some firewood, let's
up
drop
at the-
this
yeah.
tree, yeah.
But as far as what Scott was saying earlier, there's a cottonwood or something that's also on, but it would be on town property that if we choose to take that down because it's dead or dying or diseased, that we have the town's right to do that, and even if someone doesn't like it.
Yeah, but this
Public
tree was
safety.
outside of the town property, correct?
Correct, by 3 feet is basically.
And have we trimmed this tree in the past?
No,
Never.
not me, no. But it has been trimmed before, but not by me in the time frame that I've been here.
Jeff Freeman did some trimming to it, which has got to be 20-plus years ago.
Yeah, or 30 plus, yeah.
But my question with this is the slippery slope that we get on. Jeff Freeman could have thought that was on town property and cut it and did it or he did it because he wanted to do it because he loved the tree. But the
I think
deed,
that's what it was.
the deed says it's 107 feet and it's from the center line of the road is with a border of that town green area. So it's like we've talked about plowing town road or plowing private roads. We just get on this slippery slope
Yeah.
if we don't follow whatever legal documents are in front of us.
Have we heard anything from their insurance company, from the,
Not as of today.
That's my concern, that
so I think that I would probably hold off on doing anything with it and wait and see what they have to say, because I don't know if we should be going onto somebody's private property and cutting a tree down either.
Well, if it falls, if that tree company is insured, which they would be, if it goes the wrong way or.
Yeah, it's gonna be on them, but it's still a project that we're financing, you know what I mean?
But I know that if I ask the Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns, passive, our insurance company, would they be willing to, cover us for the insurance if it was on town property and was threatening a home or something like that, and I'm not sure where legally, or I mean, insurance-wise, where they would stand with that, and they just say, what's your property, it's your responsibility to maintain it. If it does fall on someone's property and causes damage, then you'd be covered under insurance. But just to preemptively go do it, I'm not sure that they would pay for that.
Well, the real issue with this tree is that it was alleged and believed to be on town property by numerous people for decades.
So,
So let me finish first. That was alleged that it was on town property by various people, including a town employee. And the people that owned the land that tree currently sits on believed that for decades, that it was on town property, that it was not their tree. And now it's come to light that it is, in fact, not on town property. That is our belief now at this point, right?
Correct.
So this tree, I went and looked at that tree, and it's definitely old and dying and I think it needs to come down. Do you agree with that, Scott?
yep,
So when we talked about this at a previous select board meeting, the homeowner, I made a vague suggestion of cost sharing, and the homeowner didn't seem to be disagreeable to that. So perhaps there might be some middle ground here, but let's find out what, my opinion is, we should find out what, if any, joy we get with their insurance company first, because it's clearly a hazard to their dwelling. And if that fails, then I think we should talk to them about what it's gonna take to make both parties happy and get this tree down. Because, even though it's not technically on our property, we alleged that it was, as a town. Whether you and I did that personally, or anyone in this board, or anyone in this room alleged that 30 years ago, because I sure didn't, that the homeowner believed that it was on town property. That's my opinion, and for what it's worth, I don't know, the rest of the board can chime in now?
I really don't want to do anything outside of town property, but I do feel that if at some point, I know you didn't do it, Scott, but if we had a tree warden that was trimming that tree under the pretenses he was doing it as the tree warden from the town, then I feel like we have a partial responsibility on it, because we touched it, and it's one of those things, you touch it, you own it type of deal. If he shouldn't have touched it to begin with.
We'll get to you, Scott. I want to say something too. I want to go back to your discussion you had a couple, 3 meetings ago, when you said if a tree's leaning over onto our property, we go to the homeowner first and see if they'll take the tree down. And if they won't, we have a right to take care of that. Obviously, you guys have all looked at that tree. That top limb is way, way over on our property.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if that's to come down, it's on our property. You can talk about the butt of the tree all you want, but I think you're getting real picky when you're saying, oh, it's 3 feet out of our property line. I think we have a responsibility to the taxpayer, the homeowner. Hopefully, they'll share in the cost sharings of it, of what it's gonna cost to take it down. I think that would be the only right thing to do. We need to take that tree down. That's my stance on the tree.
Mark, you have anything to add? I don't think we're very far apart at all, but.
No,
I'm a dissenting opinion. I think if, it's an expensive tree to take down, I understand that it's a burden for the Lamies, but that's gotta be one of thousands of trees that are just 3 feet off town property that are gonna be expensive to take down. And what if it's one of the trees on my property that's just 3 feet out of town right away?
Has
Do
the
I have to
town
take
ever,
it down, or is it town?
has the town ever maintained that tree or trimmed that tree in the past? That's my problem with it.
Well, the power company comes by and hacks away at my maple trees because they extend into their right-of-way. But when the tree has to come down, they're not paying to do it. I think it's somewhat different to say that 25 years ago, the tree warden took a limb off it, didn't hurt anything. It didn't create, in my opinion, didn't create an obligation. I don't think it's the same as, if you buy a camp up on the mountain and the town starts plowing the road and maintaining the road, that we have to keep doing it. I'm just worried that this is everything's a slippery slope. I know that phrase is overused, but
So,
this is a slippery slope. Boy, there's a lot of trees.
my in-laws have power lines that run through their property, and Green Mountain Power, or whoever it is, they did come and take the trees down that were gonna cause problems in their right of way.
On a transmission line,
Correct.
not a distribution line. The line that runs in front of your house, they'll take a limb off it if it's interfering with the trees, and they might take half of it down. They may make it look so ugly that you can't stand it, but you're still gonna have to take it down. They're not gonna pay for that.
Well, Green Mountain Power came and took a tree down in my front yard for me.
Did they?
Yep.
Yeah, they took all the ones down that were alongside the road or their main power lines to all the camps. They took them all down.
No, I called them and had them come look at it. They agreed it needed to come down. They didn't do any cleanup. They just knocked it down and took the limbs and put them in a chipper and left the bigger mess for me, but, okay.
They used to do that, and their stance now is it's cheaper to come and fix the problem afterwards, because they looked at the tree down at 445 Main Street, and they're like, not ours.
Okay, Scott, your turn.
Okay, so to get back to with Mark with the tree warden from 25 or 30 years ago, yep, I did know him. This tree at that point in time was borderline one of the top 5 biggest trees in the state of Vermont. So in order to qualify, it can't have only so much dead wood in the tree. So
Qualify for what, Scott?
as one of the biggest trees in the state of Vermont.
Okay.
UVM Extension has them.
Which was what the Leamy sent us.
Right, so that's where I believe the trimming of a few dead limbs off of it allowed that tree to qualify in UVM Extension's
Big tree program.
big tree program. So in the last, so I've been 12 and about 15 years, nothing has been done with that tree that I know of for sure. So, I don't think taxpayers' money went there to prune that tree of a few dead limbs so it qualified. I just think that was a gesture of him to do because he could climb. So, and I would like to say that I've climbed many years. And I've climbed with what I consider one of the best around, Bill Wyman. And he wouldn't put a hook in that tree and climb it the way it sits right now. It's very dangerous to climb, and it's a cottonwood, and they don't, where you cut it doesn't mean that's where it's gonna fall. And the size of it, it's, it was ranked in the 3rd largest for 6 or 7 years. Yeah. If that helps add anything to anything.
Well, one of the things that both Scott and the highway foreman have been around is we've have responded to several calls recently. It's almost like the word got out kind of thing. I'm not saying it did, I'm not insinuating that, but it just seems like all of a sudden it was like, there's a tree and it's leaning by my house and it's in the town's right of way, we want it taken down. That one happened just up by Doran's, up on Cedar Mountain, and then there's one by the Green Dump area, and we're chasing around these trees, and we go there and they say, well, it's not really our responsibility. If it leans into the right of way where it could fall in the road, then we try to ask the homeowners if they would take care of it. Most of the time they won't, and we have we can authority-wise, if it's cut it off at the right of way. But
So if it's in our, well, no, never mind.
it's on private property leaning.
Yeah, forget
into
where
the
I was going. I get it now, yeah.
But to do that that's very hard to do on these big trees, to get up there and just cut that section off. So we can end up asking the homeowner or the landowner if we can cut it farther back and drop it. And what we're still paying for, even though it wasn't not on town property, it was leaning into our right of way, causing maybe a threat to public safety. And if that's the case, like Mark said earlier, we'll be chasing and paying trees, cutting trees down everywhere, and our measly $6,000 a year that we put into it covers one tree, maybe two.
And if trees are $2,000 to $3,000 a piece, you might get 3 to 4. So, and this is not in a location that I can cut it down because of 2 power lines and 2 houses.
Well, you can.
Oh, I can.
Green Mountain Power come and fix the lines after the time.
It looked to me like it was a job for a crane.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's,
I'm not a tree guy, but that's what I looked
I
like.
talked to,
Tom
Tom.
Johnson.
Johnson, and the crane that they were gonna schedule for him to, if he were to do it, they came down and told him, it's not a big enough crane.
Who's Tom Johnson?
Owner of Trees Incorporated.
Yeah. So right there, it tells you that it's a big tree. And it's heavy. And I do know in the original that the stump was gonna stay, but that was not going to be chipped or removed.
So where do we want to go from here, board? I think we need to see if I'm going to pronounce the name wrong. Is it Lamy?
Lamy.
If their insurance company is going to provide any help, then that'd be great. And if they won't, then we have a decision to make.
Yep.
Well, let's find that out first.
I at the start of the meeting tonight, I was under the impression that we had trimmed it more recently than what had been trimmed, and Scott kind of clarified on that. And I do believe that we will get into a slippery slope if we do cut it down. I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, we don't want to be doing it to all the trees around town. And it sounds like it wasn't trimmed by anybody from the town in quite a long period of time. And the possibility it wasn't trimmed under the town's supervision at the time anyway. It was just trimmed for a good faith gesture by somebody that liked trees.
You can make the record book.
He was very passionate about that.
Oh, yes, it was,
So-
and that tree.
Rob, this is just a question, and don't take this the wrong way.
Oh, I don't care.
You don't have a problem with that huge limb, it's a third of the tree hanging over our property as it is now. What's your stance on that?
If we take a ride around and look at all the huge limbs hanging over town property around the whole town, are we gonna deal with all of them?
Is it threatening a house like this one is? I just think you guys are all over exaggerating, I believe. That's my belief.
The limb that's leaning over the house comes off a tree that's on the house's property.
Yeah, I was talking about the other one that comes, I mean, it's.
Yeah,
it's a
that
third
comes
of
over the town property.
Comes this way, yeah.
So again, is there gonna be, how many trees are we gonna have around town with people that complain because there's a limb leaning over their house?
A limb of that size though?
I don't know, I don't drive around town honestly looking at trees and looking at
And
property.
neither do I.
And
That's
looking at
what I'm
property
saying.
lines. I agree that it's a danger and I agree that the tree should come down, but I'm just concerned that if we open it up, people are gonna be able to say, oh, well, you cut their tree down, that was dangerous, you can cut our tree down, you can cut our tree down. Are we gonna open ourselves up for that for that litigation?
One of the things, that if that falls, and it falls on the lawn of the house versus the one that gets a complaint that's falling over a road, I think that the chances of if that falls and hitting someone could be less than the one that's hanging over the road that's dead. So the threat, what's the threat level of what we're looking at? If it falls on the lawn, we go pick it up because it's on town land. If it falls in the road and kills someone that falls on a car and we knew about it, that seems to be less or more of a risk than it falling on someone's lawn. Just my opinion.
Well, I think we're going to move
I
on.
mean, I'm not unsympathetic to, and I certainly, if I was in their position and there was a tree on the border of my lawn and the town's lawn, I would be trying to get the town to cut that tree down too, because it's $5,500 to cut it down, and that's a lot of money. but at the end of the day, it'd still be on my property. You know, I had to have Bill Wyman come and cut a big pine tree down that was on my property, but it was in the state's right of way by a significant different distance. And in a good windstorm, it could have come down and sawn my house in half, and I had to pay for that one. So,
Did you get a hold of your insurance company? It's just curious.
no, I didn't, it wasn't even worth the time to bother. We just had Bill come and do it, but, so I don't know what the
Just
thing
curious
was,
where
but,
they would have stand.
yeah, but the state didn't want any part of cutting it down.
Yeah.
And if that had fallen, it would have fallen into the road and through the power lines and all that, if it had gone that way.
Yeah.
I mean, you know how tall those big pine trees are that are down through there.
Well, we're not gonna make any more progress tonight.
No.
So I'm gonna cut out the discussion on this, and we're gonna move on.
So I will reach out
Your
to
your
Lane.
action item is to reach out to the Leamys and help, and see if they have contacted their insurance company, and if not, please ask them to do so. And then, once we have that information, then the board will have to make a decision. It won't be an easy decision, but we'll have to do it anyways. Okay, let's talk about mowing bids.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate your input.
The mowing bids, I believe there was, at the end of last meeting, that Mark was gonna reach, or somebody was gonna reach out to,
I reached out to Cutting It Sweet, and his bid will change if Dewey Field is off. He's still willing to do all the other work, but his bid will change because it screws up his route. So we'd need to know what's going on with Dewey Field prior to okaying any bids.
That makes sense. I understand that completely. You gonna make any progress, Mark, or?
I have a meeting Thursday, but that was the soonest I could make one, so I don't have any more information than I did 2 weeks ago.
Let's put this on the next agenda.
and if I could ask a question, if they agree, if Casellas agrees, are they agreeing to a term, or can they just walk away from this at any time, and in the middle of the summer, we gotta go find mowing, or will they commit to like a time frame of that? Like, because if they just
That's-
walk away in the middle of the summer,
That's what we're working
Okay.
on, is what a commitment timeframe would be, look
Perfect.
like.
yeah, because I just see, trying to reach out to Brian and say, oh, Casellas backed out, I know what he's gonna say.
he's gonna say, have a good day, but.
That's still confidential.
Oh, sorry, didn't know that.
All right, we're gonna move on before we, so, kerosene and diesel bids. Mike, you're up.
So we have two bids. One was for winter blend diesel and one for 1,000 gallons of clean kerosene. The only two that agreed to provide a bid was Champlain Fuels and Sam's U-Save. The other ones, I don't know if I name them, but three other ones, didn't want to bid on it. So I'll start with the winter blend diesel. So today we did some more research. I'll say not me, Hannah and Penny, to get clarification on what plus applicable taxes meant, because that was in the bids. And so adding everything up, Champlain and Sam's gave a price over rack, and Champlain also provided a fixed price per gallon at $2.75 plus applicable taxes. So what I provided the board members was a breakdown earlier tonight. I handed it out to everyone of what it means, what applicable taxes equals. So do you have that in your? It was 3 pieces of paper I put on your table.
Did I have that? Is that?
Yeah, you're looking at it.
It's a one pager like this. With those 3 pieces of paper I put on.
1.1 cents per gallon?
It is, so between the two of them, it's 1.1 cents per gallon, state and federal excise tax. So I try to break it down, so Sam's U-Save is 71 cents over rack price, 57 for state and federal excise tax, as well as a 14 cents delivery fee per gallon. And so today's rack price, according to the owner, was $2.41.5 dollars, which would equate to $3.12.5 per gallon. And Champlain's, they quoted $2.75 a gallon for the full 8,500 gallons. The additional taxes would equate to a fuel cost for the 8,500 gallons of $2.76 per gallon. They do not charge a delivery fee. So, we don't know what the volatility of the fuel market's gonna be in the height of the winter months. So it seems like, in this case, that the quote from Champlain Fuels for $2.75 a gallon plus the, 2 excise taxes is the least expensive way to go. So that would be my recommendation. Kerosene was easy. It was 2 cents per gallon over for the state, and nobody's exempt from it. And Champlain was the only one that bid on that. So the total price per gallon, because it was 33 cents over rack, you got to add that 2 cents per gallon in there, which is included, I guess, is what I was told. Would be $3 a gallon for the clean kerosene for 1,000 gallons. Because we have 3,000 gallons of a summer mix in the tank right now, and we gotta cut it, with kerosene, and the recommendation was 1,000 gallons to be added to those 3,000.
And then later on, we put the winter blend diesel in the same tank?
Correct, so if this bid is approved, they would put the clean kerosene in, then they would fill the tank up with the Canadian winter blend, and then we'd have a remaining balance, of whatever that, because it's an 8,000 gallon tank, so if we put if there's 4,000 in there, we'll get 4,000 of the Canadian blend, on road, and then we'd have up to 4,500 for the rest of the winter if we needed it. Does that make sense to everyone, or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone want to make a motion?
Well, the only question that I have, well, you wanna make the motion and talk about it after?
Either way, you're
I just-
talk about it first.
I just, on the clean kerosene, and it's not gonna make a big difference, but the way I figured it out, it's gonna be 302 a gallon, right, not 3.
Well, that's why I asked, I said, was the taxes included into that, and it wasn't put on this thing, but it was my understanding that the price included the 2 cents, but let's say, we'll go worst case, it'd be $3.02 a gallon.
Yeah,
I would just say, I would ask that the board award that, and if it comes in at $3 when we're
So you're talking about $3,020 instead of 3,000?
Is that what it comes out to?
Yes.
At 8,000 gallons?
No.
for 1,000
For the
gallons.
1,000 gallons of
That's right,
kerosene.
that's 1,000 gallons, okay, okay.
The other one, it would be 8,400 gallons, is that correct?
For which one, I'm sorry?
For the winter blend fuel, you're talking about $8,400?
85.
8,500.
That's about $3,000 cheaper.
Between the $3.14 and the $2.76, is that what you're figuring?
Yeah, between the 3.125
Yeah.
and 2.761.
Yeah.
It's about $3,000.
For 8,500 gallons. So that'd be my recommendation, is go with the Champlain Valley's fixed price with that breakdown of $2.761 per gallon, and clean kerosene from Champlain Fuels for $3.02 a gallon for 1,000 gallons.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, no, I'm gonna abstain.
Oh, yeah. I would make a motion to approve a winter blend diesel to Champlain Fuels for 8,500 gallons at the price of $2.761 per gallon for a total of $23,468.50.
Second?
Any more discussion? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm, again, gonna abstain.
And you could do the kerosene bid one, Bob. You can't abstain from that one.
I can't?
You don't need to.
No, because there's only one bid, right? I make a motion to approve Champlain Valley on 1,000 gallons of kerosene at $3.02 a gallon. for a total price of
$3,020.
$3,020.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Town report, dedication and memory pages. Do you have a recommendation, Mike, or thoughts?
I don't, I didn't know, I want to hear what the board had to say, if there was anything that stood out for the board members of things that happened in town or people in town. We've done it individually, we've done it for, back when you did it for, some workers, no, the employee, or the workers, that first responders and all that, critical or whatever during the COVID. Essential workers. So it's been done for individuals, it's done for groups, so didn't know if there's anything that stood out to you.
I don't know if the board's preference would be dedication or memory, but I think we should recognize all the years of service from Mr. Bruno. May he rest in peace. Joe?
Didn't we do that last year?
thought we
Or
did it last year.
Did we do it last
I
year?
think we did it
honestly
last year,
don't.
didn't we, Mike? Can you?
I'm trying to remember, because
Trying to remember
Can
just
you
when
look
we
into
lost
that
Joe.
if-
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that you guys voted on it, and I
Well,
think
it's
Lynn
online,
was
so we can
supposed
look
to
at it
write
online.
something up.
I don't,
I'm pretty sure that.
I think he was in there, yeah.
Yes, because somebody talked to Lynn. Yep.
okay. I couldn't remember when precisely we lost Joe, but I just want to make sure that we,
It's always one of those things where it's one of those, you try to do something positive, and if you miss somebody, then, you turn out being a heel, but as far as those got, it was Joe's service to the town, serving on the boards and committees and all that kind of stuff, but
And we honored Jonas too, didn't we? We honored Jonas.
Jonas, I believe, was in one of them. No, I don't know, because Jonas wasn't a town resident, but I can look, we can
Nobody,
find it online, they're posted online. Mark, you looking them up?
I am,
Okay.
yeah. In remembrance of Joseph F. Bruno and Jonas Howard Rosenthal.
we did both of them.
Yeah. That
We
was,
lose track of the time on how much time
That's
goes by.
yeah, same here. That's why I brought it up. I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget, but
And
we
I-
didn't forget.
Yeah, all three of them.
So,
and that
all
was the
suggestions, guys.
dedication, or that was the,
It says in remembrance.
Who was the third one, Mark?
Honorary Fleming.
Oh, yes.
Well, you got a couple of weeks to come up with any ideas.
yeah, so dedication and in memory of, there's two different things. It was dedicated to essential employees at one point.
What did Hannah tell me her deadline was? She wanted it by sometime in late December?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, early January, the latest, so we can get it added into the report.
Has it ever been dedicated to the volunteer firefighters?
Yeah, just the essential workers. It wasn't specifically for the fire department. In 7 years since I've been here. I had to go back and look deeper than that, but
Pretty confident it's never been done for that.
I mean, I wouldn't have any problem with that. I mean, we all
Just
know
to
what those
throw
guys
some
do.
other ideas out there would be, I know this is kind of a stretch, but Jim Lamey's wife. I mean, Jim has certainly served the community for a long, long, long time.
like in memory of her, I mean.
Or, in remembrance.
I know that there's been, the Lions Club was taking a hit on people like John Bro,
Yeah.
Julian, but it has, remember, it's for the previous year too. That's always tricky part is, this was for the last fiscal year, not since, anything that's happened since July 1st of this year. So it's July 1st of last year through June 30th of '24.
Well, you've got a couple of weeks to think about it.
Oh, boy.
We'll see if we can come up with any brilliant ideas.
Could we be so vague as to say in remembrance of all those Castleton residents who passed away during this year?
That sounds like a cop-out to me.
Do we still list, do we
You know
still,
what I
do we
mean?
have a page in the town report that lists everybody in there?
Births and deaths.
Deaths and deaths. They took it out a while ago and.
They did.
Yeah, it's been a lot of grumbling. People want to see it back in there. So it's just adding 2 pages back into it.
But you have a running tab over to the.
Nedra has it.
So if we could get that,
Yes, and Bruce.
if we could get that to look at.
There was some motion by previous board members to reduce the size of the town report to reduce the cost.
I just wanted a copy of it, just to give us, or give me some ideas.
I'm not making
With
that up.
deaths
No, I
and
believe it.
marriages, I
Yeah.
think, people like that.
I was just gonna say, have we thought about taking out advertising for people in the town report to help raise a little bit more so we can have our stuff back in the town report?
Literally, to add that 1 or 2 pages in there, it's gonna cost like $2, you know?
So you only have to sell one ad to a local business to be in there and it'll be fine.
Anyways, we got, so your homework assignment will be, come up with ideas for dedication and or remembrance.
And it's gotta be July 1st of this past year back, right?
Till June 30th of this year.
23, 24.
Does it have to be?
Yeah, technically, that's the report dates are that, so when it starts falling outside of that, it starts getting,
weird.
yeah.
I was gonna do this in select board concerns, but I'll do it now. I have agreed to write the select board report. So I will do that and then send a draft to you guys and you can add, subtract, multiply, or divide as you see, and get back to me. And then once we have something we can agree on. Because in the past, the select board has not always generated that report. Sometimes it's been generated by the town manager. And I think it would be appropriate for us to actually do that.
Yeah, last year was the first year, because I've been doing them, and I'm like, come on, guys, can you, it's your stuff, I don't want to say, put words in your mouth, kind of thing, so.
So I think it should be a collaboration of the 5 of us. So Mary Lee will be back next week and she'll at least correct my punctuation at minimum, but she'll probably, but she may have a real pearl of wisdom that no one else thought of too. So.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll look at the past ones too, because we got copies at the office. I'm not sure if the volunteers for the sailing club are in that one year or something like that. Just stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, this year, Friends of Rec, it's kind of, if they do something really wonderful, it's gonna be probably like for next year's report.
Yeah, well, they've already done quite a bit. I mean, we can't put it on there, but I would say next year, they're probably, as of right now, up near the top of that list, so.
Just so everyone knows, when he's brought up the fire department, we had a good save this week, so. Or what was it, Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. We had a good save.
Up by the
Chim-
college?
Chimney fire that extended into an attic and
Oh, wow.
the house is still there.
Stable, or, Statesville Landing.
Fortunately, it wasn't very aggressive, it was slow burning, so when we got the call, we had time to get there, the 15 minutes to get there and stop it, and it didn't get any more than it already had.
Nice. Yeah.
You've been involved in a few of those, Mark.
Yeah, a few of them.
It always feels good to go make a difference. All right, so we're gonna move on to, Highway Department Vehicle Replacement Plan and additional funding for pavement. Yee-haw, here we go, guys. I don't know how much we can make for progress on that tonight. We've been through this several times. It's not a secret. And I do like your idea, Rob, of perhaps leaving the budget lines as proposed alone and adding a ballot item to whether the voters want to increase the budget on those 3 items or not, because we know it's gonna be expensive, but we also know it's really necessary. But we also have to provide the town government with a budget to work with.
Yeah, I don't wanna see the budget fail because of that line item, even though I know it needs to be addressed.
And I
So-
think there's, if you properly present the facts to the voters, I think that the voters will have to make a decision, an informed decision, but we have to make sure we provide the information so they can make that informed decision.
I did post this out there, so, because people will read that. When you put it with the minute, or the agendas, you put all the supporting documents with it, people, that's what
I can't believe somebody read the agenda. I was shocked.
that's what that guy came in, he's like, I got it offline, I was like, I got up from the floor, I'm like, what, did you say you read something on the, and he's from what,
Jersey.
New Jersey, so.
Yeah,
drove
and
up
he
here
read
for
our
this meeting.
agenda, or he read our minutes online
Yeah.
and reached out because he was concerned.
I'm hoping he's not driving back home, but maybe.
He has a home up here, or a brother or something, so.
We can't get anybody to show up, but at least somebody is reading stuff.
Yeah.
The guy from New Jersey in a
Gives me
snowstorm.
one glimmer of hope.
But this, this document that I kind of blew it up so it was easier to read. You know, it's kind of like one of those things where if you do it for 1 year, it's yay team, but it doesn't fix the long-term problem.
Have a little extra money, not enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's 75,000 for 2 years and then goes into 50,000 the third year, then it starts dropping down drastically.
Yeah.
Because now you're at that plateau of the amount that's needed to do 3 miles per year, over a course of, 10 years.
That also assumes the price isn't going up.
Well, I only put 2% inflation on this thing, so if inflation's over 2%, then, you know, then you're still now you're falling behind still.
I mean, this just shows where we've fallen behind at this point, and a lot of that is using those one-time funds to cover it.
Which was 1 year, $104,000 in ARPA, didn't even pave a mile.
And then you use the highway leftover budget, I think somewhere I read too, right?
Yeah.
So when you start using that stuff, now all of a sudden we're at the point where we have a pretty good spike that we need to cover, which would have been covered through the budget, small increases, you know, over the years, but.
Yeah, and so there's some homework that I still need to do, working with Hannah and Jeff to get the paving, the last year paved, because we gotta go back into archives to look at paving bills and find out when it got paved, so that we can truly move it over to the replacement year. But the message I would say is, it still has to be 3 miles per year, so it doesn't matter when the road is repaved, we're still gonna focus on what are worst roads, and to keep up with the 30 miles of paved roads, we need to do 3 miles per year based on a 10-year average of the lifespan of a road. If it falls apart earlier than 10 years, we're kind of hosed. So that's why crack sealing
Yeah.
and stuff is really
We gotta
important.
deal with that one and push off another one that
Yeah.
maybe is a little better shape.
But 10 years is this takes into account that a road would last 10 years. And whatever resurfacing that we do would last 10 years, and then that means 3 miles per year over that 30-year, or over that 10-year period. That gets all 30 miles.
There's a little problem with that, though. We're doing half of that 3 miles right now.
Yeah, that's why this starts adding, if you look at the dollar,
Is it gonna go up? Yeah, show me where that is, Michael.
yeah, so you see the red arrow and the red.
I do.
Read above it, and so fiscal year '26 would be increasing it by 75,000, which bring you slide upward, and it says operating budget. The operating budget would be $314,000.
Yep, I got that, okay.
And then you slide to the right column, and you got another 75,000 a year added to, this is just compounding, it's not, you know, it's adding to the last year's number. So the budget would go up to $389,000 per year to get caught up. Because we're building this thing up to be able to say, we're caught up now, we're gonna when we start gliding, we got 3 miles per year. And you look at the average of that point, under the operating budget line, and you're talking to pave 3 miles 3 miles of road per year plus milling, because that milling costs are, it's, you know, you're talking $450 to $470,000, and it goes up to $487 at one point, $495. And that's inflation, that's all that is at that point. That's what it would cost to pave 3 miles of road going out that far. And that's based at 2% inflation rate. And
Where do you get where do you get 3 miles? Where in the scale do you get 3 miles?
it's down here, Bob, down this side.
Yeah, but I mean, what year do you get to the 3 miles a year? Because right now, we're less than half of that.
We are, we're talking, today's prices,
I think we would have to get up to
What year, Rob, is it?
around 2031, it looks like, where it
20
starts to level out.
2031?
well, right now, it's, it was 120, I put the number in here. Right now, it's 2024, I'm down on the right side of the spreadsheet, down towards the bottom. It says,
Yeah,
Two-
so, I got you.
cost of milling and paving 1 mile of road is $172,000.
I got that, Michael, yeah.
So if, multiply that times 3, and that's today's price, right? So we talk next year, it could be a little bit higher than that, but what's that, 174 times, 172 times 3?
Times 3?
If I get my calculator out. 172.
Is that right? 172.
516, is that what you get?
Yeah.
So that's milling 3 miles though. But the cost of doing 1 mile, if we do 3, most time, the way they figure out milling, we're not gonna mill all 3 miles of the road. It's, when you do a shim and overlay, you're milling to create a level where they don't have to fill in so much. All those wheel ruts, it starts getting milled down in the center of the road, and then they only have to fill in
Yeah, so we might not necessarily have to mill 3 miles of road every year.
So I would say, and fiscal year ending 2027 for the 389, we're still not there. It's gonna be really when we get into fiscal year 28,
The 3 miles then?
then we're really catching up with the 3 miles,
Okay.
the price. But over the period of 10 years though, this covers 3 years, oh my God, 3 miles per year over that 10-year period. What we have to look at the worst roads that we have right now, because like East Hubbardton Road, we can't wait 10 years to get that. And there's more than 3 miles on that road. And that road's starting to get to a point where,
So it might be
I'm encouraged to drive it. There's gonna be points that if we wait 2 or 3 years, the way the cracks are, we're crack sealing wide cracks, and if the water gets down underneath the road, we're gonna have to replacing,
So 2 or 3 years of our paving budget is gonna be spent just on that road.
right, that's how we focus on it and get that caught up.
Well, just to pave 3 miles of road is $408,000 at today's prices.
408,000, Dick?
To pave 3 miles of road.
Oh, boy.
So according to this, and that doesn't include milling. So according to this spreadsheet, we actually don't get there until fiscal year 2029
And all
to be
your
able
costs,
to do 3 miles of road, Mike.
all your costs will go up?
That's at 28, but
Yeah, that's assuming 2% inflation.
Yeah, okay.
So,
well, it's 439 without that counts milling though. Yeah, if you're not counting milling, it'd be fiscal year 29.
yeah, and that's just paved, that doesn't include any milling, and that only assumes 2% inflation. So the bottom line is that this is pretty aggressive, but it may not be aggressive enough, but it's a good place to start, in my opinion. I mean, that 75,000 is a big hit, but it's also necessary to start somewhere, and that's probably a good place to start as any.
And it's only gonna cost us more the longer we let the roads go,
Yes.
the more it's gonna cost us, so we're gonna fall even further behind.
So, and
So we gotta decide what we wanna drive on.
And 239 is what's in the budget right now per year. So if you look at that, and knowing that East Hubbardton Road is pretty bad right now, that's not even gonna pave, that's not gonna pave 3 miles, it's gonna pave like,
1.35.
yeah. So, even though just that one road, it could take 3 to 4 years at the current, if we're not putting any more money into it, just to get East Hubbardton Road done, and by the time you get that done, South Street is in a real problem, because that's another road that's having a lot of problems.
You know, if we do get lucky in this time period and there's grants or whatever available, that's, you know, just a bonus. We can use that to get caught up, and it may pull some of our, you know, because we're gonna run into problems where we're not gonna get them in 10 years. So if we can get whatever extra we can get, it'll be nothing but a bonus to try to help get caught up.
Like every 4 to 5 years, we fall into that cycle to get the Class 2 paving grant, and that's 200,000 minus our share of that, so it ends up around like $57,000, and $157,000 by that time will do
1 mile.
1 mile, you know, and that's for Class 2, so we can only use it on Class 2 roads, which is East Hubbardton, Creek Road, West Castleton, South Street, and North Road, and Blissville. And we just did Blissville, so that was under a grant.
I'm gonna check this with Joe tomorrow, just to be sure I'm correct, but if I'm correct, our current homestead tax rate with the homestead and our municipal is $2.53 for this current fiscal year. So if that's correct, then 1 penny on the tax rate for a $200,000 residence would cost $20, is that right?
Doing mental math, don't.
Yeah. Well, it's 2,000 times .01, so that's 20, isn't it?
Yeah.
Move the decimal point 2 places. So for every, and then 1 penny on the tax rate raises still around $45,000, is that still correct?
That's probably, yeah,
Or
ballparkish.
ballparkish, I'm sure the number, it goes up and down every year, but it's right around 45K. I mean, I remember one year it was 41, another year it was 46, so to raise the paving budget by $75,000 is gonna cost the average homeowner in town $30.
I think that's a fair way to explain it to
And-
people, if
but
they had
that's-
that number, for every 100,000 your house appraises for, this is what it's gonna, it's gonna cost you X.
That's a chart I wanna be able to put together.
Because, my house isn't worth what yours is, and Mark's is worth.
Correct.
$6 million, so.
But it's $30 for that, and if they put in money in any of the other funds, it's $30 for that one.
Well, yeah, that's true, it will accumulate, but I think everyone needs to be.
Yeah, I
presented
think
way.
that, if you want your roads to stay halfway decent, it's gonna cost you $30 for every 100,000.
This building cost me $40 over 20 years.
Yeah.
$40 every year for 20 years.
$40 a year for 20 years.
That's what it cost me, and it cost you about the same, give or take.
$800, yeah.
So it was worth it for me.
Yeah, I think we need to make sure that people understand how that works. I
But
can remember a few years ago at the town meeting, went through every item, and at the end of it, one of my neighbors, and everything seemed to, have a positive spin to it. And at the end of the meeting, before they closed, one of my neighbors stood up and said, "I'd like to know what we can do to lower our taxes." And it's like, this is a guy my age, and it's like, we just spent 2 hours discussing this. He clearly didn't see the correlation.
Yeah.
He wanted to have a good police department, a good fire department, and the roads done. He wanted all that stuff, but at the end of it, what can we do to lower our taxes? Well,
Yeah, I mean, if you wanna lower your taxes, you have to give up services.
yeah. And this is how much they cost.
There was a statement made last year by an individual that said, I think you guys did a really good job containing the costs, but then when the tax rate come out and stuff, said, this is crazy. So, again, didn't see the correlation between the two.
Well, the only thing we can control is the municipal rate. And it's our responsibility to be as frugal as we can and still provide the services that
People expect.
residents expect. So
And that's 20% of the tax rate, because the schools take up
roughly,
80%.
yes, roughly 20%.
I want to make sure that the taxpayers sitting out there know that too.
Well,
Yeah,
let's
we're
put
not
it-
the one hitting them as deep in the pocket as,
Let's
Yeah.
put this in the minutes. Currently, in this fiscal year, our residential tax rate is rounded to the nearest penny, 54 cents. And the residential education rate, rounded to the nearest penny, is $1.99.
199, almost four times as
Yeah,
much.
it's roughly 80% of your tax bill is for education.
Yep.
And, I mean, some years it's 79, some years it's 82, but it's always around 80%.
Yep. That's huge.
What were those numbers again, Dick?
For this fiscal year,
Yep.
and every fiscal year is different to some extent. 199 is the homestead rate.
Yep.
That's not the non-homestead rate. I do not have that information right now.
Yep.
And the resident, and the municipal rate, which is applicable to both residents and non-residents, is 54 cents. That's rounded to the nearest penny. And that's per 100 of your assessed value. So where do we want to go with this as far
I
as?
think if there's separate items on the ballot, I think that we'd be able to take the time to explain it to them.
We have to do it actually, I think we have to do more than just say this at the town meeting. I think we have to figure out a good way to disseminate this to the public. I mean, not everyone reads the websites. There's only a certain percentage, I don't know what it is, that actually watches PEG TV.
We could get some of those signs again, like we used to have around town, yes, on Article 29 or whatever. It's been quite a while since I've seen any of those.
But that's not really educating, that's giving somebody your opinion.
Yep, but I'm just saying, it's been a while since we've had that in town.
One of the things that, when the tax bill goes out, that before March, the next quarter's tax bills,
put it in.
we just stuff her in there, if we can show them how much it would cost them based on the assessed value of their home and the reasoning behind it, and, get little statements with that, we can put it in a flyer.
I think that's a good idea.
Everybody's
However-
gonna see that has a piece of property here, and then catch those that don't have it through social media and the town website, and
However, there was some angst or contentious issues that were put in stuffers by one town employee or one select board member in the past. So I would suggest that whatever we put in the stuffer and a tax bill needs to be a collaboration of this board and the town manager.
It comes to this board before it.
Yeah, we should probably make a motion to have it put into the tax bill.
Or at least we have a public collaboration by this board.
by
Because-
next meeting, as long as we have the budget's gonna change, it would change the tax rate, but as far as like the message to people, I'm putting the ballot language, write the three, if the board agrees to do all three of them, then write the language that's brought up during a meeting and read, and that's, that would show, shall the voters of Town of Castleton vote for $75,000 for blah, 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 the three different things.
Are you planning on doing it, are you planning on wording it for X number of years? Can you do that in there? So that
I'll-
it doesn't have to be voted on every single year?
I don't think so, because whatever motion you make to say, put it into the budget for the next 3 years, that the next select board could override that. If things got real tough, and they're like, we gotta cut some stuff out, we're gonna cut out vehicle reserves, I guess it might not be binding.
But if we put it in there, we wouldn't have to revisit it unless somebody absolutely wanted to, right?
And have an explanation of why, if you don't do this, and 1 year it's not gonna get you to where you wanna go. It's a help.
I'm not convinced that, when I look at this, that we'll be able to, decrease the increase. In fiscal year, where are we? In fiscal year '29, we'll be able to decrease the increase from 50 to 10. If you know what I'm saying. We're looking at, increasing the reserve account for paving to 314,000 next year, 389,000 the year after that, then 439,000 in fiscal year '28, and then 449 in fiscal year '29. By fiscal year '29, we may not be able to only increase it by $10,000, is what I'm saying. We need to revisit that.
Right, it's just impossible to know that far in advance right now.
Well, and it's also, that doesn't, actually, if you look at current pricing, increasing the budget to 404,000 doesn't get 3 miles of road done at current pricing.
What was it, what number?
Or 3 miles of road done at current pricing.
Exactly.
What was that number you come up with, Dick?
If your proposal is to increase the fiscal year '29 paving budget by $10,000 to 449. Oh, that will do it. I'm sorry, I'm not reading this correctly. It'll just barely do it, but it won't do any milling.
Yeah, so what we really need to do is we need to do it on a yearly basis.
We need to look at this every year until we
Correct.
get it right and make sure that we can do 3 miles of road, because if we can't do 3 miles of road, it's gonna turn into, some neighboring towns have roads that were neglected for a lot of years, and
Right, we don't know what inflation is gonna do.
we don't wanna go down that.
No,
Because
because
that
then we're
costs-
stuck.
Well, it costs so much more to reclaim a road than it does to keep maintaining it.
That 50,000 in the third year might, if it was bumped up to 60, and then
Oh.
the 10 the following year might work, but I was trying to get it back down so it's kind of manageable each year. It's only gonna go up $5,000 or $10,000 versus 75 or 60.
Yeah, so that's gonna be on a yearly basis then.
Well, we don't have our crystal ball with us, so
But that, so
I think we're all agreed, so that we're agreed that we're gonna have separate ballot articles for reserve accounts. We know that's legal already?
yes.
So the question now is, I think we've all agreed that we're gonna have to do that for paving. And do we wanna visit any of the other reserve accounts today, or do you think we've already done that and I'm pretty satisfied with the plans that Mike presented.
I didn't bring the fire department, the highway ones.
No, I know you didn't, but I'm saying I'm pretty comfortable with the ones you already presented. So if you wanted to provide the board with copies of those prior to the next meeting, we could have that discussion in the next meeting.
Yeah, I've seen them, I'm okay with them, I think that gets us to where we need to be,
If you
but,
can just come up with a quick cover sheet for discussion.
Yep.
Don't do the heavy lift, just spit something out real, you can put on one page.
You want me to craft the language for the 3 separate ballot articles, so you have those to review next meeting as well?
I'd say yes.
We certainly need to have it done by first meeting in January, so why not do it next meeting instead,
Okay.
right? Isn't that our
Yeah,
draft
so,
head?
yeah, but I can craft them that way. If you don't like the language, we can have some time to massage them and fix them.
Okay,
And I'll also work with you, Dick, and Joe, to look at what we could put in for the increases, how that would impact them based on the value of assessed value of their homes.
yeah, we need to be able to present that in an understandable, clear, and accurate manner.
All right.
And I think I forget who made the suggestion to do it for every 100K of value makes sense. Because your house is different than mine.
Everybody's house is gonna evaluate differently, and 100,000 you can split, if they're 150, then you know it's that times half.
Yep.
If they're 250, it's, that times 2.5.
Yeah, people have a close reference.
Yeah, like their pocketbook. It's like, oh, it's only gonna cost me $80 or $90 or whatever to get this back on track. That seems a little bit more palatable than someone says, we're gonna put out $200 extra $1,000 into the budget.
Yeah, and they're thinking that their tax bill's gonna go up $1,000 a year, or an unknown number, which any amount is like too much, but,
Yeah, I remember I'll go back to when we did the firehouse here, and we were, presenting that article for the voters in that special election, and I spent the time to figure it out and what it was gonna cost, and then I had the town manager and the town accountant at the time make sure I was correct, and that's, and then I was talking to somebody who was really freaked out about spending $1.5 million on a firehouse, and I said to that person, well, it's gonna cost you $50 a year, and he said, oh, I'll just write the check then. Because he didn't, once he realized it really wasn't a horrible, it's $1 a week.
Yeah.
and I mean, a lot of this stuff is, in the long run, it's gonna become a savings down the road to everybody, because, like you're saying, it costs a lot more to reclaim a road than it does just to repave it. Or our vehicles, if we keep running our vehicles into a ground, and we gotta keep putting $20,000 repair bills on a truck that's, could break 15,000 a week later, I mean, I drive junk, I drive old worn out junk, and I still understand that, as a town, we should probably have some decent equipment.
Well, it's gotta work.
Cause my stuff breaks at the worst time usually, and I mean, I can fix it, so it's, labor costs for me are free, but it's not getting any cheaper, and it's always the worst time.
When you need a cop or a fire department, or you want your road plowed, you want the gear to work.
Yeah.
It's gotta be ready.
What was the bond? The bond on the fire department's for 20 years, right?
Yes, 1.5 million for 20 years.
So and 75, I think, is the payment on the bond payment. It's in here. It's included in the
Sounds right, I don't remember.
the buildings part. So eventually, how many years has it been since it's built? Like 8?
It was '09, I think. I don't know when we started paying the bond off, but it was, we moved into this in August of '09.
So let's say it's 10 that you started paying it. So there's 14 years.
Yeah.
So we got 6 more years. That's $75,000 that comes out of that budget that helps reduce cost too.
And then we own it.
It's too bad it wasn't this year. We'd look like heroes.
Yeah, I
getting
know,
that
right?
75,000 out, wouldn't we?
We're set with this, so let's move on to the budget. It got a little prettier, but not much.
No.
It went from 5 to 4.9, Mike, is that right? And I looked through this, and it's all the same culprits that we had last time.
And I added in the $8,000. I handed out a copy of the passive insurance stuff. So it was $8,000 increase over for the town. Workers' comp went up, but the liability stuff went down. But it's the cost. We added additional insurance to the contents of the buildings and the wastewater plant, so it stood to reason that they would go up, but it went down over the previous year. I got
Low
it.
risk, so.
But, and, yeah, so it's like $8,000. I added it back in, split it up amongst where it was in the budget already. Just added the stuff in there. I did change the consumer price index numbers. I got them right here. It went to 3.3 for the end of October, and they said that the November's numbers will be out somewhere between the 11th and 13th of this month, so a couple days from now, and then I'll have the final numbers to plug into the wage stuff. But New England, the CPIU for New England was 3.3 for the end of October.
Bottom line is the budget's going up. This projection is that it's going to go up by $208,459, or 4.9%. And the lion's share of that is wages and
Health insurance. Health insurance was a killer this year.
health insurance was actually the lion's share of it.
Yeah.
So I know we had talked about it, but I don't remember if we ever did anything about the $8,000 insurance buyout.
It's in here for 10, because there was.
Well, some spots are 8. And
The
some
writing was
spots-
8, but I think in the notes need to be cleaned up.
Okay.
But it's 10 in there, and if you wanted to reduce it to 8, then you could do that, and that
We
would
have
take,
to vote on that.
it's all part of the budget.
Okay.
But if you decided that you want to reduce the buyout to 8,000 rather than 10,000, that would save $10,000.
I had a question on that because I just remembered we talked about it and I didn't.
But somewhere here, in the language on the side might say 8, but in the,
Well, it was 8 on some and 10 on the other, and I knew we had talked about it being 5 now.
Are those numbers in either of the union contracts?
no.
Okay, so we don't have a contractual issue we have to deal with. And what is the buyout currently now?
5,000. And the price of, right now, a family plan insurance our share is 37,000.
37,000.
Yeah.
The town share.
Yeah, 80% share is 37,000. Wow. But that 37 includes the vision and dental, part of it too.
I would hope.
It's not that's like peanuts.
Yeah.
That's very minor compared to,
Matter of fact, the employees don't even charge that. It's just been so minuscule, but we'll see how that trends.
so any discussion on the budget at this point?
I just want a disclaimer, because I put it together. When you go through this, it flatlined most everything else in the budget. There was very few things that I just kept it the same.
Looked at that.
Yeah.
And so that impact, that $208,000 impact is basically personnel and
Yeah.
benefits. And insurance is in there now too, but
Fuel increases and stuff like that. I think
yeah,
was
I
in
kept
there.
it all, I kept everything the same, because what was in here was $3.75 a gallon for heating oil, which came in a little lower.
Yeah.
So, but if I go lower and it goes higher, then we're gonna be like.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's that guy.
Yeah, and, the things like the heating and oil and the fuel, he pretty much flatlined those, and the price went down from last year. So hopefully it doesn't go up over
$3.75.
$3.75.
Yeah. That was for heating oil. But the price of, and the operating budget for both the fire department and highway department and fire department, they have line items for operating costs that's the best guess on gasoline, for those that, vehicles like the police cars are all gas. So that's in their operating expense, and it got raised last year to bring it back to, it was always being like under budgeted. And so I looked at the last 5 years and said, why don't we just put what's realistic in there versus going under? And, you know, so that got raised last year to come up in line with what they actually really spend over a 5-year average.
Do we have a constable working now?
We do not. And I did trim a little bit more out of that one, because that's really gonna depend on what the town wants to do over the long run, whether they want to fill a constable position or not. I think is it down to like 8,000 or 6,000 or something like that? Or no, 6,000 was in wages. I chopped it. Was it 19,000 maybe?
The total is 20,745.
Yeah. So,
What page
he's
is that
not,
on, Mark? Help me out.
Pardon me?
What page is that on?
13.
so he is really not working right now. And I'm not gonna, I won't go into personnel details, but I think that, going forward, that, the town will make a decision whether or not, you guys need to make a decision whether you wanna, or even if it's a vote, about appointing a constable, or having an elected constable.
So obviously, we don't have a second constable either, then do we, or do we? No.
No, it was when Scott Stevens left, it was a choice not to fill that
Yep.
position.
Okay.
Some towns, they appoint, it's not just elected, so. But the PD was one of the big ones. You look at personnel on their side, that was a huge part of their increase, like.
Yep.
Like almost all of it. But I wrote in there whatever percentage it was probably,
It was most of the increase in PD.
yeah.
There was one thing.
There's always a
And
risk.
then-
I'm sorry, Mark. There's always a risk that by not increasing other things and just trying to let it go is that we might overspend somewhere here, but underspend somewhere over here. Usually kind of washes itself out because we can't predict 100%, you know, how much electricity is gonna cost, or how many staples they need to buy, or how many pencils. It's a risk, but I think my analysis would be that the risk is minimal by leveling it out. And as long as we kept up with all the other things like insurances and, you know, that kind of stuff. Hopefully gas prices go down. Or energy prices totally.
And the adventure camp?
Yeah, so that's a good point, Mark. The adventure camp, I reduced that out of there because it's supposed to pay for itself. So this is the risk that I would say the board would have to assume, is if it's put into the revenue and we charge an adequate amount to cover the cost, which hasn't been done, we've been a little bit short. And with the buses,
A lot short.
yeah. Well, when they all sugared off, I think it was like $1,200.
Oh,
But-
really? It was that close?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were 10 or 12 grand upside
18,000 or
down.
something.
Yeah,
or
that was
20,000.
That was some math errors. I sat down with Martha and we went through that. But, so if they charge enough to run the camp, to include buses and extra money for people driving to go pick up food and all that, we may overspend, or basically what, it's taken out of the operating budget, but the revenue portion coming in for rec will be increased by getting those costs up.
I didn't realize it had gotten figured out to that close, because we were way off the last time we talked. And I know it's not a lot of money to talk about here, and it's something that we should probably talk about at some point, but for the building at Dewey Field,
There's money in that budget this year, though, and I just want to say, I'm going to go on the record and not cause an argument with the board members, but I don't want to get rid of that building. I think it's cost a lot of money to build something like that. Even if we kept that as cold storage and had it as a place to tear it down, it doesn't seem really, we've already got the money for the roof. It's just getting somebody up there on the roof to do the work. It's already been appropriated. So I would rather keep the building, even if, like I said, it's used for storage for sporting equipment or whatever, than tear something down, because it costs a lot of money to rebuild something like that. Just seems like, it's not, besides the roof and the fascia, it's in good shape.
Did they wanna use that space for something else? Was that the other deal, or?
No,
No?
no, the back room, they had to fix the door, but, that's where some of the stuff was stored, but it was dirt, and they wanted to, not have it rot and,
Sure.
ruin whatever they're buying, because they just bought a used paint machine, and you put it in the moisture, and by next year, it might not be so nice.
And all that stuff, yeah.
There's a
But-
tiny storage room
Yeah.
and two pretty good-sized bathrooms.
Yeah.
And then that kind of open air area in the front.
Yeah.
It wasn't really designed to be too efficient.
No, and I know John had some pipe dream, I think, about putting, have a vendor, a concession place in the beginning, but that wouldn't be next year or the year after. I mean, we're talking down the road, but the building's there, and just if you hopefully agree that the cost of building something like that is pretty steep, and that for what we would have, it's been sitting there, and the roof kind of fell apart, but other than that, the building is a good structure. And I would rather keep the building than get rid of it. Even if coaches want to put a locker in there, because we got lockers, and they want to store stuff in there and have a lock on the door, then it's stuffed upstairs of the town office or at the rec center, as long as it's stuff that mice aren't gonna eat. But I think there's potential for the building that, that I wouldn't want to tear it down, not for the $3,000 we got to fix the roof. That's already been appropriated. This didn't get the person up there to fix it. In my opinion, anyway.
I think it makes sense for storage. I would hate to see us spend a lot of money on plumbing again.
Yeah.
It's been done again and again and again and again, and
It sat so long.
unless you have a full-time person that's gonna unlock it every day and lock it every day and clean it.
Yeah.
I thought that was gonna be me one year, but, somebody would unlock it for a game, forget to lock it. You go down there and the mess that would be in those toilets, it's like,
That's what the problem is having someone, even the gate to the facility. And for a while, Brent Clark was going down in the morning as the highway department foreman, and he would open it. And then Bo would have to go down in the evening to lock it. And if somebody forgets and it's left unlocked, and like you said, you can find people squatting in there or made a mess that no one else wants to really clean up.
Or even just having somebody do donuts in the soccer field, which
Yeah.
happened this year.
Yeah, that's 2 years in a row now that they've tore up that place. That's why the gate is important to, have across that, or the chain or whatever. But they drive off the road, anywhere they can get in there though, if they can get in through around the log or the fence that's along the road.
that's something that we're addressing that we'd like to see done would be, maybe large pieces of stone or
Yeah.
something that would keep people limited to that parking area.
Yeah.
Clean that lot up a little bit of stone, and
That was actually a complaint that Brian had from mowing, that people were driving all over the fields down there and rutting it up, and it makes it very hard to mow.
Yeah. But that's again, going back to pin the rose on someone saying, this thing stays locked. If we can't figure that out, because if we just say, oh, we'll figure it out, and they just keep leaving it open and people keep tearing it up.
right.
So that's something that, keeping it locked has been pretty much the way to go if there's been, like, it's not during baseball season or whatever, but somebody thought it was a good idea to tear it up twice.
I think I might know where, and everyone else at this table might know where we could get a couple of big pieces of rock if we had the means to get them down there
Yeah.
to block a driveway.
Actually, aesthetically, I mean, some of that landscaping looked nice, actually, if it had stuff like that down there.
Yeah, I like especially big pieces of slate. I mean, it goes with the heritage of our
Yeah.
area.
That's right. There's a couple of people around here that are really good at doing that kind of thing, and they usually can manage to make it look pretty good. And you can't drive through it.
You can try.
All right, so can we move on to, do we want to talk about ARPA obligations? We've pretty much satisfied the need to obligate all the funds this year. And jump in if I'm wrong, Mike, but we're down to just a few $100
Correct.
that has not been obligated, and this has been double-checked by our accountant?
It has, and I questioned something the previous accountant had on the ARPA, and I could not find where the number came from, and I talked to Joe about it. I've got a copy of it here. what I had for what the town received is what's on that spreadsheet you're looking at. But there was another number, it was a couple $100 more, that end up on the spreadsheet at one point, and I thought maybe some interest got mixed into it, but that wasn't the case. So I don't really know, so I went back and looked at what the federal government gave us for both town and county money, and that's what's on this spreadsheet. So if that's no change, then there's still $259.83, still unobligated, and it's not a lot to do something with. I made a little note over there that if the board want to consider that, obligating that $259.83, I could round out getting the more cots and blankets for the shelter, which, we've got the bare minimum right now. I think we got 12 cots, but if we have an event, we're gonna probably need more than 12, but this isn't gonna get to the end point, but that 259 could get us, 3 more cots and a few more blankets.
I would be fine with that.
Absolutely.
Where are those?
They're stored in the Connex down at the Legion. Or if it's not cots and blankets, or if the words, so it's, could be supplies for the emergency shelter. That way, if I spend the money and there's still $10 left over and there's not to buy a cot, I can buy some more of the hygiene kits, like the toothbrushes and stuff like that.
Yep. I would make a motion to allocate the remaining $259.83 of the ARPA funds for additional items for the emergency shelter.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So it's Rob and Mark, right? Or Rob and Bob?
Rob and Bob Mark.
Now, we don't have to worry about spending the interest, right?
No,
That we can carry over?
you do not.
Okay.
And there's an update to that since one of the ones you've seen. This is through 31 October. So that brought the amount of interest that is on there to $63,909.64. So now the remaining balance of, this is just the spreadsheet. I mean, things that I had recommended, above and beyond that, there's still $9,000.
Yeah.
$9,009.64. And that will continue to grow as long as there's ARPA still sitting in the account, which I would digress and say that they're concerned about our money in the bank that we had it in. It's all been moved now. It's all insured.
Great.
That's good.
So we're
got
no
Bar
longer,
Harbor.
we no longer have an exposure there.
Correct. So I thank the treasurer and Joe for getting on that quickly and getting it done.
Yes, give them our thanks, please. And unless somebody on the board sees otherwise, I'm gonna move on tonight. We don't have to take any action on the interest, so I'm gonna move on unless someone wants to deal with that now. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the manager's report. Mike, can you do the 20-minute version instead of the half-hour version?
Yeah, I mean, I could go as simple as saying that if you've had it, is there any, everything's in yellow, that's action or update, so if you had any questions on what's been put in there.
I'm disappointed in the states and V-Trans for the trestle.
Mine too.
Yeah.
So they've yet to send me, since that meeting, which was last Tuesday, they still haven't sent me the language that their attorneys say that shows that they never turned it over to the town, but they're saying that they have something called val sheets or something like that they're saying it's not, if it doesn't show up in there, that means that, it's not their responsibility, and I'm like,
I'd like to continue to question that.
oh, yeah, I am not gonna let go of this one.
So I had a thought. If we own that trestle,
No, we own the trestle. We own the culvert. The railroad owned the trestle, which is turned over to V-Trans to manage for the rail trail, but it still says that the property, the V-Trans says they still, the easements that came along with everybody, where the rail went through everybody's property is still valid, and, that if they ever want to put a rail back in there, that's why they couldn't take the rail bed out, that the railroad could come back and say, we're gonna put a railroad in here, and all that would revert back to the railroad. So we own the culvert underneath the trestle, because it's under town road, is what they're saying. And, so, what, I'm like, but was it designed to get water away from the abutments of the trestle that was built in 1918 or whatever it was? Anyway, we're arguing about it, and I said, this is the taxpayers' money for of the town of Castleton. And they said, well, the money that we would spend is the money for the taxpayers of Castleton too, because it's all goes to the state, whoever we pay to the state. And so they said, basically, we don't want the responsibility. We know you don't want it, but we got to figure out how to get through it. So after our long discussion, they said, why don't we just keep your grant in place and get an engineer, or get a company out there, excavation company or whatever, to take and give you a quote of what it would take to replace it. Because it's a concrete box culvert right now, and it's 3 by 3, because there's no bottom in it. But the replacement's a steel squash culvert. The price of the culvert, I put it in there, it's like 40,000 or something like that, or 30-something thousand.
Does it need to be bigger?
That's what Josh Cavahall, the river corridor guy, he come out and looked at it and said, based on the watershed area above it, this is what it needs to be. So it meets the state's requirements, with aquatic baffles for fish and
So what
everything.
about the fish being able to climb up and down it and all that?
So if we can get it done for 200,000, because they said they give us another 50,000 on top of the grant. They said if we can get it done for 200,000, that's out of our hands. We gave you the money, you get it done, you own it. So that's another course of action.
So then in 30 or 40 years' time, we'd have to come up with another 100 grand to replace it again. So we should be thinking long-term here.
So,
One
but
more
that's,
reserve account.
but I wanna, our attorney hasn't seen the stuff from their attorney, because they haven't given it to me yet. I'll reach out to them again, but it kind of fell into the abyss. They told me that, sorry, change of personnel. But that $1 million that they said it was originally gonna be, now they're saying, well, maybe you can just get it done for 200,000. That's quite a bit of difference.
Yeah, that's,
But Jeff and I talked about it, and we think that if we can do a lot of the work in kind, but we don't have the big enough equipment to move that, the culvert, even though you can put it together in pieces. But if we can get it done for $200,000 through the grant, it'd be done. Like, even if we owned it and we had to replace it in 20 years. But I'd like to
it'd
see
be better if somebody else owned it.
I'd like to see the state say, oops, sorry, I guess we do own it.
Well, you'll have to let us know where the dust settles. when-
Yeah, well, at least we got the conversation started again. One of the things that, it's part of it's all in this packet, but I got a call today, and I believe I shared it with the select board. I forwarded you, it was with the Class 1 paving, and they're saying 2026 to pave from Sand Hill Road to the bridge on the far side of the town by Ellis's Orchard. That's that section of Class 1 state highway. If they pave that in the spring, early summer of 2026, and we don't have the sidewalk project done, which it won't be, and we don't have the stormwater project done, which hopefully that will be, they're gonna pave and we're gonna tear the shit back up. And it makes no sense. And that happened before,
Yeah.
when the fire district tore it up. So I'm trying to work with them to come up with, like, this is what we need to do, but that sidewalk project with all the jut outs and all, that could cause us to tear up some good pavement. The replacement would be part of the grant, but still just seems like a waste to not be able to harmonize with them and to get it done. But, so more to follow on that as we find out. I think I forwarded you guys what I sent to them, and I'll see what their response is. Have not met with Bud Carpenter's excavator yet, on the salt and sand shed. Jeff reached out to him, to get his name and number so we can call him. I don't know if you drove by the main pump station, but that gate's, or the fence is up, the gate's wrong, but that gate can be used behind the highway department, so we'll swap it out in the spring.
What page you on, Mike?
I'm on 8 right now,
Okay.
back of 8.
Okay.
9, Western Star. So I called Dan, I think it sounds like machete, but it's not, it's like machete. Something over at HP Fairfield. I haven't got a call back from him, so I'll have to return it, or call him again to find out about if he'll come down in the price of the International, and see where that lands with its comparison to the Western Star.
Is that all ready to go, or is it just cab and chassis, or?
No, they sell it turnkey.
Complete.
Plow on it, and truck and plow and bed is all on it.
Do you know if without talking to him, you don't even know if he has anything like that?
No, that's when I called him today and asked him for I asked him two things. One is, what's on the lot that meets our specs, and two, where do we service it? Because they don't service, I believe, they just sell. So we have to make sure we know where that would be. It wouldn't, if it was over in, Concord, New Hampshire, that would not be feasible. But if it's, what's the one in, New York?
Do it, or Hewitt, or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever, the change in hand.
Yeah.
Whatever, but if it's something more, if we can get it done locally.
Yep.
And I think, Earl's is an Allison, certified place too, or one of the, maybe, I don't know if it's Allison or if it's an engine, but there is, warranty work can be done there for some of this stuff, so. But I'll follow up with you and Mark once I have some more information.
Perfect.
There's some stuff on here, like on page number 12, it falls under that interest for the ARPA, so you didn't want to have that discussion tonight, but, so I just highlighted it's in there.
Just go back to page 10. I just
Yeah.
had a quick question.
Yep.
On D, when municipal roads and streets, what are you talking about? What didn't happen? Was my question. I read it, and I don't know what it refers to.
Storm drain cleaning.
Storm drain cleaning. Okay.
Yeah, A1 didn't get to it, right?
Right.
Okay.
And I'm more concerned about that, the one that old laid-up stone that runs along the western side of the village school. That's all laid-up stone out through there, and you get a lot of debris that, from the leaves and stuff that goes into the storm drain. Those things are already having issues and just clogs them up more, and then we're gonna have water backed up. That's what I was trying to avoid. Yeah, so on page number 12, that starts on actually page 11, Dewey Field and the T-ball field, that's stuff that's on the ARPA worksheet. Somebody brought to my attention, at a meeting I was at recently about concerns about keys for the village school. And, so Hannah and I started working on it today. The key control for that, we're gonna go down and visit our rec director and say, this is how we want keys accounted for, and here's our process, so that we can limit who has keys, and we know who has keys. And the alarm was going off the other day, and Colette's calling me going, can't get a hold of John, and what do I do? And so, he was over in New York, so she wasn't gonna get in touch with him.
Not an option to put like the back of the town office, punch on the code?
Yeah, I'm trying to get something physical, like a key, like the key cards, that I guess the high school is willing to work with us and add those locks back to their system, so we can get the key cards. Because the code, you can, at least the card, you gotta hand it to someone, and they catch them in there versus somebody, I tell them, my code's 1, 2, 3, and then anybody can get in there.
Okay.
They don't need a card in their hand. I don't know, I won't talk about emergency management. We're ahead of schedule on the local emergency management plan. We had a meeting, with the members here, and, Chief Mantello and Cindy L. are gonna work with, Liz Burt down at the, Legion to get the Red Cross in there to do their assessment of the building to make sure it meets everything. The fire marshal's already said it's good. I don't know if I forwarded it to you or not. I don't think I did. I can, if you wanna see it. Lexipol, provided the narratives and the rest of the application for the AFG grant for the fire department. I think that I'll send it to you, just if you want to read it. I think it was pretty well written. We made some changes to it, but that's due on the 10th, I think, of January is the due date, or 20th, I can't remember, one of those. But we'll be ahead of schedule to getting that in with for the gear and the extractor, the washer.
Give our thanks to Assistant Chief Ducharme for his help on that.
Yeah, he's done the lion's share of everything. He's been really good with it.
Please tell him we said thank you.
I will do that.
I'll tell him too, but
Oh, yeah, for sure.
he's put a lot of effort over the last few years into this.
All right, I want to publicly thank and tell the board, members of the fire department, the PD, the Castleton Free Library, the Friends of Rec, everybody that was involved in Nancy Trudeau for organizing the parade. My wife organized the market, the Friends of the Library, the Women's Club, I mean, all that, everything, and the credit union, the Heritage Family Credit Union, the businesses, to make that thing successful. It had a lower turnout this year than last year, but I can't control that part, but it was well done, I think. We need more vendors. The vendors backed out on my wife this year, and so they only had 7 vendors, I think. So, and the food truck backed out. So
You had a food truck there, though.
Andrew from Third Place got a truck to come in that sold fried bread dough and I think maybe fries, but the one that was supposed to be there didn't show. Rick Pontillo came in and visited me. He said he reached out to you, Rob.
He stopped and I talked to him.
Okay, so that was about the common area. That's it. My other questions, we talked about trees and, one thing I found out about the village school, though, when they dug out behind there for the perk testing, or whatever they were really calling it, for that stormwater design, and the area that's directly behind the school was full of building material and stuff that the state wouldn't accept, but the one for around the basketball court, the one on the north side, closer to the railroad tracks, that one was really good. The one that was on the south side was not as good. But I found out that if we tear that up, if it gets torn up as part of this stormwater mitigation, that resurfacing it can be part of the grant. So, which I didn't think could happen. And then I'm like, well, then now we gotta resurface this thing, but they're saying no, because they disturbed what was there.
Resurfacing the basketball court?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was good news. At least that's what they told me now. Do I have that in writing? Not yet, because they said it was part of the grant.
You should probably email him back and be like, I just want to double check with our conversation that we had the other day.
They'll say, call V-Trans.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Anything else for the town manager on manager's report? Even though this wasn't in my packet, you want us to get this approved, the tree removal from Trees Incorporated, Mike?
Oh, it wasn't in the packet?
I didn't see it in my packet.
Okay,
Did you see this?
I didn't have it in my packet, no.
okay, if you wouldn't mind,
I don't mind.
It's on the paper for a purchase order to be approved, but I didn't see what it was. You all set?
I'm waiting on you.
I would make a motion to approve purchase order number 053267 to Trees Incorporated for the sum of $3,250 for tree removal on Pencil Mill Road.
Second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Is that work that's already been done?
It was part of the grant, so some of this may be covered in the grant. But that was the trees that were removed, for their grant project on Pencil Mill.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Ready to move on to warrants?
Today, the 9th?
It is.
Yes.
I would make a motion to approve warrant number 1209A for the sum of $1,692.68. Warrant number 1209R for the sum of $4,610.50. Warrant number 1126 for the sum of $26,526.68. Warrant number 1206 for the sum of $33,273.10. Warrant number 1209 for the sum of $52,734.14. Warrant number 1127P for the sum of $20,431. And warrant number 1205P for the sum of $21,302.96.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This one's a two-pager, Bob,
Okay,
but it's not stapled.
all right. Yep, that would be a good idea, right? Okay.
We used to have a joke, nothing is sailor-proof, or nothing's electing-proof either, right?
Especially not that pizza.
You didn't want it, so don't be looking at it.
Where'd that come from?
I was looking at the crust right now, I was like, eh.
Yeah,
Where'd that come from, Bob?
down in the corners.
Was that your supper?
Yeah, it was.
Still might be.
Yeah, still gonna be, yeah.
Might be Mike's snack here in a minute.
Play a tea at
Said you were
tournament.
hungry at 6 o'clock, you wouldn't take it then.
I'm not eating your dinner.
What? Look at that last one. Did they move Dick's name or did he sign it in the wrong spot? It wasn't where the rest of them are.
Okay, I just signed them.
Well, there was one that you signed it down here. I just wondered if they moved your name in it.
Did I screw up again?
Well, I don't know if you screwed up, but
It's your old spot, right?
you weren't looking at
I've
it.
done that to you before.
I can't, it's way over there. He wanted to know if Dick signed it in the wrong spot on one of those other ones.
He just moved his name for some reason on that one.
He signed it under Rob Steele.
Oh, he did. Yes,
My
you
old
did.
spot. So we're gonna do this.
You did the other ones okay.
Gotta give you credit there.
So let Rob sign it in your spot.
Just
Okay.
normally what I do is just put a couple arrows on there, loop her back around.
I don't think anybody's gonna question that.
I just changed the names. I think that's close enough, don't you think?
I'd say so.
Okay.
I don't think anyone's gonna take us to court.
So I got 1, 2, 3. I got 4, Dick.
So there's still three floating.
coming around,
There's still three floating around here. It's all Mark's fault. It's 9:30. Not too bad.
No, not horrible.
Okay, I got all the Select board comments. Rob, anything?
I've got nothing.
Mark?
Nothing.
Rob?
Just want to bring to everybody's attention that the Rutland County Solid Waste District voted to increase their district surcharge by $2.53. The new district surcharge will be $25 a ton.
So that's about 8%, 7%?
I don't know what the percentage is, but
And I did include that in the budget.
yes, you did. Yes, thank you.
I had a little birdie told me.
Yep, that's good.
And we did switch composting too.
Perfect.
That all you got, Bob?
That's it.
All right, I'm all set for that. As far as that's concerned, action items, we all gotta come up with ideas for dedication and or remembrance for the town report. Mike's gonna reach out to the residents at 445 Main Street to see if their insurance company is gonna offer to help, and if not, well, whether they help or not, we may or may not have a decision to make. And there's no good answer to that one. I've gotta reach out to the animal control officer about the, dogs on Crystal Heights and see if there's been any other complaints. Has anyone heard anything about any other complaints about
I have not.
any animals? The one on School Street's been resolved, as far as I know. Has it stayed resolved, Mike, to your knowledge?
That has been quiet.
Last time I drove down through there was about a month and a half ago, and the animals were still confined to quarters.
That's good.
I saw them on the ball field in the last week or so.
Oh, so must be, well, they are goats. They can escape. They're pretty good at that.
Yeah, the goats were out there.
Must be everybody's
Keeping
likes
the
it.
in-
Dave's on mowing.
Yeah,
Yep.
this time of year. But nobody's complained about it, so that's good.
Goats gotta make a living too,
Are you
right?
gonna reach out to the woman that came in too?
I will after I talk to the animal
Yeah.
control officer.
Okay.
I'm also gonna take the time to, maybe I'll do it tomorrow afternoon, to drive up there and take a walk up that hill and back down again. I try to walk every day anyway, so why not there?
That'd be a long walk from your house.
Sometimes I cheat and drive the first few miles.
Oh, okay.
I try to walk for at least half an hour, sometimes more like an hour. But I like to go around to different places because, as you know, walking on Blissville Road can be challenging.
Yes.
I literally had to jump off the road the other day on River Street.
I'm sorry.
If I had
didn't
not,
see it.
no, it wasn't you. If I hadn't moved, they would have hit me.
That's what I was
No
thinking.
question.
Did I go down River Street last week or?
Yeah.
And I was within that far, close to the edge of the pavement. Anyways, so that's my concern for the day. Let's see, anything else? That's it, I think. Did you want to talk about the common area, or do you want to hold off on that until you do a little more research?
I can talk a little bit on it. I talked with Rick Pontillo. I don't know if that's his name or whatever. He's willing to, him and the two other people that we had talked about, he was gonna get with them. They're willing to look into, I don't know what the correct term would be, but I'm just gonna say managing it for us. He's supposed to come to the board with some sort of description of what they think they should have the ability to do and not do, and what they're gonna require from the town, as far as that goes. So, they'll be coming to us on that. I know we talked a little bit about it on here early on. From what I read today, I believe that it's a common area for everybody, and that those aren't deeded dock rights, like you corrected me the last time. And I think that's where a lot of that got screwed up, was prior boards and prior town managers started to blend it as a deeded dock right instead of not a dock license like it is. So my opinion, not being an attorney but reading all the stuff, was the people have a deeded right to access the lake or use the lake through that area, and anybody can use it as long as they're not hampering the use of those people who have deeded access. That's my opinion from the reading.
That was my question, was, is there any guarantee of exclusivity there?
I did not see any. The folder's about this long. I went through what I believe to be enough to where I thought I understood it. I'm not a lawyer. There
Ted
was
Parisi.
some stuff from 1991 from Ted Parisi in there where he had looked into it the town itself had allowed, the town itself being, you know, whoever, the select board, the town manager at the time, whoever, the town itself had allowed individuals who didn't own property down there to use that property to hold a sailboat regatta. And individuals who have deeded access to that property complained and said that the town didn't have any right to allow those other people to use it. And his theory from looking through everything was the town absolutely had the right to allow those people to use it as long as those people weren't interfering with the use, or I forget how it's worded, but basically as long as they weren't interfering with the use of the people who had deeded access. So,
Do you think we could revisit the possibility of them taking that ownership of that property over from the town and creating their own association to deal with it as they see fit, that the town doesn't have any right, any jurisdiction once you get to the water, right?
yeah, the town doesn't have any jurisdiction on what happens over the water.
Do we know how many properties have deeded access rights? I don't need the answer, I just want.
There are 120 something spots.
121, I've heard 121, I've heard
120-ish
100.
something down
Yeah,
there.
we have the ability to find out.
Yes.
So if it's 120, let's call that, to make the math easy, times 30. What's 120 times 3 is 360? So 120 times 30,000 is 3.6 million. So if we offered to give them control of that property and ownership of that property and promise them that the price, the assessed value would not be more than 3.6 million now, and then figure out some way to control that in the future. Because that was one of the concerns they had, is if they owned the property, then their taxes would go up. Whereas it would not if it was if the assessed value of that property was 3.6 million. You see what I'm saying? Then they all get to
I
pay their
don't-
piece of that taxes.
I don't know if that assessed property, well, what
If it's
assessed.
not worth anything, if it's only
Right.
worth $1.5 million, then that's not an issue. Their taxes would actually go down.
Yeah.
It's, our assessor said it's a little over $1 million, and, but it's $30,000 of assessed value on top of their property, so they're only getting, so the taxes would be 30,000 times whatever the tax rate is. That's, when I figured it out last time, after we paid for mowing and stuff, the town took in $7,000 for that property a year, that was it.
Yeah, so.
This
So let's
particular
offer them that
individual.
option that say, hey, the town doesn't have authority over the water. The common area is a common area, and it's open to the public. And that usage may go up or down in the future, we don't know. But if you want to control your own destiny, we'll sell you the property for $1, and you guys form your own ownership group.
To do with what they want, and then that group itself would pay the property tax on that lot.
That's what they figured out, and once they figured out what they would split it amongst 120-something
Yeah.
people, that they're like, ooh.
Well, let them do their math then.
I mean, we would take the 30, remove the 30,000 from their,
Assessment, right?
from their assessment.
You have to.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, that would eliminate the people that are complaining about other people using it down there, but I really think that we can get away with just basically, if we can get it, I think the north side, there was questions on the survey marks on the north side, because some of them have been moved, some of them are missing. I just think that we need somebody to go down there and to have those 3 guys or whoever wanted to do it, just to go down and walk down with somebody and say, okay, well, you kind of are encroaching on your neighbor a little bit. Maybe you could be a little bit more neighborly and move your stuff. I think I don't know if we need to make such a big deal out of it, I guess.
Well, at this point, I'm willing to listen to what they have to say.
Yeah,
They've got a proposal but I think that from a tax point of view they would be better off if they owned it.
Yeah, I mean, we would be better off. I think the town would get more tax money out of it.
No, a town would actually get less tax money, but not significantly less, so. Because this particular property here that I just took a look at, just to do a shallow dive, they pay with both the education and the municipal taxes, $359 a year on $132,000 assessed value. So, the municipal part, you know, so, I don't know, you'd have to do a deeper dive on the math, but doesn't sound like it would be a horribly huge, it might be to their advantage to do that when they actually do the math. But then again, you're dealing with non-homestead rates and houses that are a lot more valuable than that particular one. So I don't know.
Well, the
Anyway,
value of their house would go up because they would own 1/120th of that area.
Mhm.
So in theory, it would go up, but it would take the problem away from the municipality. I mean, it's never gonna go away.
Like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but the way I read it today was that in 1979 or whatever the date was that CDC dissolved or whatever, they gave the lands to the town. And then it was, you know, it had been divided, but they gave the lands, those people just had deeded access to the lake. It's not deeded dock rights. You have a right to a 12-foot swath to access the lake by, and that's it.
you don't even have that. You have access to the lake. You don't have a deeded 12-foot spot in
As
that
part of the
original
license.
agreement.
That's, yeah, that's
We,
the
we,
licenses.
we as a town decided to divide that up into 120 spots for docks. But that's not actually in the original contract,
Yeah.
or covenant, or whatever you
No
call it.
good deed goes unpunished, right? Trying to
There you
do
go.
something good and
Precisely, we're getting punished for somebody else's good deed. I think I kind of stretch select board concerns out a little more than they need to. I want to have a brief executive session for, I think this would be contracts. Could be personnel. Let's call it personnel.
I had one for contracts, but,
Pardon?
I had one for contracts if we could.
All right, well, you go first. So if someone would make a motion.
Make a motion to enter executive session at 9:52 for contracts?
I'll second it.
and personnel.
We can only do one at a time. Mark.
Oh, okay.
Have a motion to go into executive session, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.